Our adventure began with a strange light falling over my home island of Zinkenstill. I chased it to the impact site, where I found a blue-haired girl named Lyria and a knight, Catalina. The girl was shaken, and pretty soon I learned the reason why. She was on the run from Erste Empire soldiers. I knew an unfair fight when I saw one, so I stepped up to protect Lyria from those awful tyrants. Catalina and I fended them off well enough, but when their backs were in the corner, they released a fire-breathing hydra. It charged me, sending me flying into the tree line. Moments away from death, all I could think about was Dad. He'd been the one who trained me, and he'd done a great job, but... well, who expects their son to get attacked by a five-headed horror? He was going to be devastated. So, it's all over. Just as I began to sink into darkness, a gentle light enveloped my body. Lyria, wreathed by a mystical halo, was floating above me with her hand outstretched. She explained that she was going to merge our life forces. Fortunately, it worked. From that moment forward, Lyria and I would be inextricably linked. Looking into her blue eyes, I knew I had nothing to fear, not even death itself. Two people, one life, a greater whole. Lyria had taken a huge risk to save me. Now, if one of us got hit with a fatal blow, it was curtains for both. And that thought awakened in me a desperate hunger for survival, for life. The next moment, Lyria and I felt this reverberation of power. The torrent of emotion rushing from me had awakened something. Darkness and flame swirled around us, coalescing into a massive dragon, Bahamut. With him on our side, we made short work of the Imperial Hydra. Now that their trump card had been blasted into oblivion, the Imperial Army had no choice but to run. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't chased that light. No Lyria, no lifelink, no adventure. Man, I probably wouldn't even have set foot off of Zinkenstill. Fate's a funny thing, isn't it? Since meeting Lyria, we've seen our fair share of joy and happiness, and pain and suffering. But the Grand Cypher crew doesn't buckle under pressure. We'll take on anything the journey throws at us. No regrets. Now, where was I? Oh, right. We just humiliated the Empire, who probably had reserves waiting somewhere close by. We realized we needed to get off Zinkenstill. Fast. The Empire was not going to rest while Lyria was on the loose, and I figured that since we shared a life force now and all, it was in everyone's best interests if we stayed together. Plus, I'd always wanted to explore the far reaches of the skies, though doing it on the run, not what I had in mind. There was so much to think about, so much to decide. But all those plans could come after we had escaped Zinkenstill. I didn't want a whole army, this time with, 30 Hydras marching on my home island. And, well, I had another, more personal reason for wanting to leave. Before I knew it, our journey was at an end. The end. As in, we'd reached the end of the skies. My son, I'm waiting for you on Estalucia. I thought about Dad's letter. I missed him. When I was young, he would take me to the edge of the island, and we'd sit there, admiring the clouds. I wanted so badly to explore those skies, just like Dad. I had to see him again. And now, I wouldn't have to make that journey alone. With Vern, Lyria, and Catalina at my side, we commandeered a small Imperial craft and set out for the greatest of destinations, Estalucia. From the moment we left Zinkenstill, our adventures were hectic, to say the least. Catalina, who claimed to be an experienced pilot, crashed our small vessel onto the gusty fields of Port Breeze. But we quickly pulled ourselves together and found a new ally, and helmsman, in the form of Rackham. Since then, we gained more and more allies, and no matter what obstacle we faced, the crew always worked in tandem to find a solution. It's all thanks to their support that I've made it this far. And what a wild ride it's been. To think I had never even set foot off of Zinkenstill. But now, I can't even count the number of islands we've saved, let alone visited. Sure, being a roving band of heroes is difficult, but it's got its perks. New faces, new places, and a whole airship's worth of fun. Who could pass this life up? Anyway, we've just begun the next chapter of our adventure. We discovered another piece of the sky map, which led us to Zega Grande. Yeah, a whole new skydom. Just imagine the danger, the promise. But I knew it was going to be fine. Just another set of memories to add to our ever-growing collection. I hope you're ready, Zega Grande, because here we come.
Skyfarers, we need your aid! Goblins! Goblins in Tempeal!
We were at the dock in Folca, taking care of landing procedures, when a panicked old merchant rushed toward us. In between his wheezing, he explained that a shipment of relief supplies headed for Tempeal had been intercepted by monsters. Tempeal reminded me of Id and how he had totally beat our butts. It was embarrassing, yeah, but what's worse, it reminded me of losing Lyria.
Tempeal, huh? Maybe this time around I can actually help out.
That wasn't Vern's usual peppy tone. He was probably reliving those bad memories, just like me. I guess after you've spent as much time together as we have, you pretty much share a brain. It wasn't going to be a fun journey to Tempeal for either of us, but we were Skyfarers, and desperate times called for brave faces. Anyway, goblins. Smart. Fast. That meant we wouldn't have the luxury of time. We needed to throw together the minimum amount of supplies needed for the journey and head out. I turned to Vern so we could discuss game plans, but then I saw his ears were droopy.
If we're fighting goblins, then we should have them licked by lunch.
Something was wrong, but with the hasty flight preparations, I couldn't spare the few minutes to investigate. Pull through it, Vern, I thought. We need you. A little less than an hour later, it was time to depart. But Vern was nowhere to be found.
Hurry, Skyfarers! We can't waste another second!
The later we got there, the more supplies would be stolen or destroyed. This could add up to weeks or even months of delay in Tempeal's restoration. Vern, I hope you're okay, bud. I was worried out of my mind, but a captain's gotta do what a captain's gotta do. I left a message for Vern with the merchant, and we set out.
Goblins? I can't even fight stinking goblins! What good am I? Just a scaredy lizard who brings everybody down. Man. If only I was more like my pal, swinging swords and shooting spells. Then I'd finally be able to help out. Maybe I could have stopped Avia from taking Lyria. Maybe I could have done something. How do you live the skyfaring life without combat skills? Heck, I can't even blow sparks, much less fire. What kind of dragon can't breathe fire? Ha! I tell everybody I'm a cool dragon, but I'm just a faker.
You are unworthy.
You were right, Ed. I'm not worthy. Not worthy of being in the crew. Not worthy of being the captain's best bud.
Oh, finally, here you are. I was looking everywhere for you.
Uh-huh. What did this old dude want with me?
Your captain left you a message. The crew's gone on ahead, but as an indispensable member of the Grand Cipher, they want you with them as soon as possible. And that's an order.
Indispensable? That meant like VIP, right? Me? For a second there, I was about to blow it off. Like, yeah, right, my bud's just saying that. But then I remembered, this crew had always kept it real. No lies, no flattery. Yeah, we kicked butt because we believed in one another. These guys were my best friends. And maybe we weren't perfect. I mean, we lost to Id, but my bud put his captain boots on and got right back up and tried again. It was never about swords or magic. It was about always moving forward, never giving up. And more than anything, it was about being there for each other. What was I worrying about? Who cares if I couldn't fight? There are 1,000,002 ways to help on an adventure. I mean, you try questing without a cook or a healer.
Hello? Merchant of Vern, do you read me? If you're done daydreaming now, I've got a ship ready to go.
It was time to get a move on, or I wasn't worth my scales. Sorry, everybody. Your pal Vern is on his way.
Okay, people. It's go time!
The supply should be this way. Let's move.
Uh-oh, our potion stock's running low. We'll be okay against a few goblins, right?
Hopefully. Just don't overdo it.
I sure hope Vern's okay.
He was really down, wasn't he? Poor Vern.
Get out of our way! We're in a hurry here!
Damn, they're back for more. Right when we were about to cross the finish line.
I see people! Over there, by the supplies! We have to go help them!
Folks doing okay?
Skyfair! We're doing better now. We need these supplies to repair some heals. Please, would you take me instead?
I think that was the last of them.
Thank you. You've saved Tempeal's future.
Heads up, goblin reinforcements. Just don't quit.
Yeah! Did you miss me? Took me forever to catch up.
Vern!
Vern, was that an explosive? When did you get bombs?
Here come more of those stinking gobbles. Can you take them?
Sure can. Armor break! Break and live!
A bloom for endlessly.
You're mine!
Yikes! Wyverns are coming from above! Watch the goblins!
If those goblins manage to steal any more of the supplies, then the relief effort's good as done. No kidding. They've already hauled half our grain to higher ground.
Higher ground? Sounds like a job for a cool dragon.
That's a great idea, Vern. Put your wings to use.
Are you sure you can manage? What if the goblins fought you?
Piece of cake! I'll be back in 30 seconds or your money back!
hero.
I brought potions. Everyone feeling better?
Thanks, Vern. You're a lifesaver.
Those bastards should get a nap. Don't fall for their trick. Yeah, we got 'em all back. Those stinking gobbos didn't get a single sack.
The enemy have started their retreat. I think the worst has passed.
Thanks to you Skyfarers, Tempeel's finally gonna be rebuilt. We owe you everything.
Vern was the real MVP.
Aw, shucks. I bet you say that to all your lifelong pals.
Skyfarers never fail!
After we'd secured the supplies, Vern talked about how he didn't think he was good enough for the crew. Obviously, he was the only one that felt that way. I'd always appreciated his support. During fights, he was a supply runner, lookout, and cheerleader. And both on and off the battlefield, he was my courage. But even the best people, and dragons, get discouraged sometimes. I really should have been more vocal about my appreciation. I made sure he knows now. We won the day because he came flying to the rescue. Just like I knew he would.
I'll always be there for you, pal.
He was back to his old self, basking in the praise of the crew. Which caused his ego to swell like a balloon, but hey, who doesn't need a little confidence boost after a dip? And Vern, let me just say it now. I value you. And all the hard work you do. From the bottom of my heart, thank you.
Yeah?
Sometime after our mission in Tempeel, we bumped into the old merchant in Folka.
Well, look who the cat dragged in. Thanks for handling things in Tempeel. You all deserve the best.
Tempeel had been roughed up by Furican's rampage, and all of the locals were busy repairing the damage. The work we did that day had been crucial to those recovery efforts.
Out of curiosity, my young lizard friend, were you much help to your crew?
Uh-oh. He said the L word. I turned to Vern, ready for his usual furious tagline.
Thanks, Pops. You really helped me see the light.
Huh. This was new. The old man threw an apple to Vern, and they exchanged a nod. Then, without explaining this bizarre bond between them that just came out of the blue, he left.
Does anyone else feel like the space-time continuum just broke?
Io was staring, dumbfounded at the small dragon, who was already happily munching away on a tart Granny Smith. Had he matured? Enough to ignore his most hated of hated insults?
Seriously, this is just too much to believe! He called you a lizard and everything! Maybe the ship will be a little quieter from now on, huh?
Hold it! I ain't no lizard! And don't you say that in front of the apple! What if it hears you?
Maybe he'd get there in another adventure or two. I'm gonna go get this report turned in.
Much thanks, Captain. Paperwork is...
Since the crew started helping Id with his job as the new Mr. Fix-It, we'd been really busy. The shop was completely flooded with requests. Those sad days when the Islanders didn't trust Id, they seemed like a lie now.
Lyria, how are you feeling today?
Id asked me that every time we met.
We're all worried about you. How's the lifelink holding up?
Right, our lifelink. Everyone thought it might have weakened when I was absorbed by Angra Mainyu. Honestly, I had been really scared back then. But now, with the weight of the sky off our shoulders, I felt better than ever. I flashed Vern and Id a smile to let them know I was okay. Talking about the lifelink brought back memories, and I realized Id still knew almost nothing about our adventures. I began by explaining Catalina's daring rescue of me and our escape from the Erste Empire. Then I described the big trees of Zinkenstill and the Imperial Hydra, and the sad reason I needed to make the lifelink with the captain. Eventually, we met Rackham and Io, Rosetta and Eugen, and before we knew it, our ship was full. It's really amazing how much our family has grown. The whole time I'd sat there, in silence, yes, but I could tell he was giving me 110% of his attention.
Since getting to Zega Grande, we've had a heck of a wild ride. But now that things have calmed down, we can get to making some good memories.
Sure.
I think I'm starting to understand Id. Sure, he has two modes, cold and colder. But if you really pay attention, you can see he has a warm enough heart. Id, the captain, the crew, you're the best friends I could ever ask for. Here's to hoping we'll be together forever.
After some exciting paperwork, I returned to find Lyria and Vern taking Id on a walk down memory lane.
You guys have seen some amazing things.
This was coming from someone who survived Lilith's schemes and won a mind battle with a god dragon. We'd all been through a lot.
It's all because the captain looks out for us. Yep, my butt is epic. You saw him save Lyria and this whole freaking skydom?
I turned to look at Vern, open-mouthed. Where was all this coming from?
I'm just trying to be vocal about my appreciation, remember? So yeah, take care of Lyria and keep up the good work.
I could certainly manage that. Just remembered, Sierra got us a whole bag of sweets as thanks for all our hard work. Lyria and Vern exchanged a glance so charged, I thought the air between them was going to burst into flame.
You should have told us that first. Early dragon gets the grub. Hey, no fair. Come on, Vern. Wait!
And just like that, they were off. Foodies, right?
Captain, you got a moment?
I turned around, about to ask, "You want some too?" But one look at Id's knitted brow, and the question died on my lips.
Let's duel.
Did I just hear that right? Why, though? Did he have something against cookies?
Sorry. It was the stories about your adventures. They put the thought into my head.
Oh, that's why... No, I still got nothing.
I want to protect Lyria just as much as you do.
He stalked away then, and left me staring after him. I was still having trouble piecing together his train of thought, but one thing was clear. He was doing it for Lyria's sake. The duel was to take place at Halewind Altar. Lots of memories there. It's where we first met Id, where I lost to him, and Lyria was taken from us.
Do you guys really have to do this?
We're friends now, right? Friends don't fight each other.
Lyria and Vern tried to talk me out of it the whole way there, but I just kept thinking of the look in Id's eye. He wasn't going to back down, and I respected that.
Captain.
Id had been staring into the distance, like a statue set to guard the altar. He turned when he heard our footsteps.
Now that we've gotten to know one another, I've come to realize something. There's no one that can keep Lyria safe better than you.
He took deliberate steps towards me. But this was nothing like the first time we met. Before, he'd been terrifying, like a hydra closing in on its prey. But now, there was something softer about the light in his eyes. You could tell he was there to help.
You're the real thing. A hero. You didn't just save Lyria, you saved the skies. And I thought, maybe if we crossed blades again, I'd learn something. Something that would help me be more like you.
Id.
I finally got it. Id and I... There was still a part of us that couldn't tear away from that fateful day at Halewind Altar. When Id had been a bad guy, and I'd been too weak to protect Lyria. But things were different now. And this fight was going to prove it. I'm not losing this time.
I'd be disappointed if you did.
I drew my sword and took the first step forward.
Colleagues, give me everything you've got.
Okay, right back at you.
Please, just promise me you two will be careful.
Mercy for the weak. Come.
I mean, we already knew this, but it's pretty much unstoppable.
We'll see about that.
I believe in you, bud. Show 'em how much you powered up.
I've grown too. Nice idiot.
It's gonna take more than that to beat me.
You won't escape me! Sentence!
Over here!
Interesting. You're dust! Suffer!
Oh, no! One in the cover!
Let's do it!
Not bad.
So, wanna give up?
Just like...
It's over! I knew this wouldn't be an easy fight. No,
You're no slouch yourself.
Bruised but still smiling. That's my bud.
Fitting.
Come on. So we're no longer.
Go away!
You won't escape me!
Nice hit!
I'm not backing down. Thank you, Captain.
No. Thank you. I won. I stood, almost doubled over with my hands on my knees, trying to remember how to breathe. Id staggered over and stuck a clenched hand in my face. Yeah, of course he'd go for a fist bump. I tapped his knuckles lightly with mine, and just like that, we were back to being loyal crewmates. That duel had blown away all our regrets. No more looking over our shoulders. It was time to move past, well, our past.
Yeah?
All right.
Hey, heard about your little spat with Id. Wish I still had that kind of energy.
Eugen gave me a hearty slap between the shoulder blades.
The chills I got when watching them. Man, they were going all out.
Of course Vern had told everybody. I could appreciate honesty and openness throughout the crew, but I clearly needed to have a talk with that dragon about minding his own business.
So you're jealous Lyria's making new friends? What, do you have a crush or something?
Yo, don't be silly. That's not what this was about at all.
As Lyria tried to explain the situation, I just kind of sniffed and shuffled my feet. It had been a wild ride, but things were finally back to normal. I couldn't get the duel with Id out of my mind. He had been a perfect storm, placing his whole heart behind every blow. I had to remember what I was fighting for to even stand a chance. To be honest, I still don't think I'm stronger than him. I won this battle, yeah, but both of us are still changing, still growing. Who knows how it'll turn out if there's a next time. But I doubt we'll ever need to fight like that again. Id trusts me now. I can feel that just as much as I felt the shock of his sword clashing against mine. Trust is nice, but it always comes with responsibility. Still, that's the weight I signed up to carry when I became captain of the Grand Cipher, and took Lyria's hand all that time ago.
We really don't get a break.
For sure. It felt like everybody in Zega Grande had a job for Mr. Fix-It. Today's request? Just taking down a monster that can demolish a small village with a sneeze. No biggie. Vern, could you get us some potions?
You betcha! Liquid health coming right up!
Lyria, we're about to head out. Mind letting the rest of the crew know?
Sure, no problem.
I took a deep breath, letting it settle in my chest before releasing. We had a game plan, of course, but you never know how these things will go. Timing, coordination, everything had to be perfect.
We'll be fine. I trust you, and so does everyone else.
Id put a hand on my shoulder, and somehow that weight steadied me. We'd figure things out. We always did. I exchanged a nod with him, and we headed for the docks. The rest of the crew was already there, waving their arms in the air. From the smiles on their faces, you'd think we were going for a tropical vacation in a goose day. Well, either way, I was sure we'd all come out of it in one piece. We had a bright future ahead of us.
You think you know the sky and wind, but then you come to a foreign land, where unfamiliar songs on the air beckon you toward the unknown.
Catalina, where do you think this breeze is coming from?
The wind rustled Lyria's hair affectionately as she spoke. From somewhere far, far away. Much time has passed since Lyria and I escaped from the Erste Empire and met the captain in the woods of Zinkenstill. I found myself thankful that the sky has no limit, because no matter how many journeys I've made at her side, there will always be more to look forward to. Lyria and I first crossed paths when I was still a knight of Erste, and she a tool in the Empire's mad experiments on dark essence. So you're Lyria. I was appointed to stay by her side as both captor and guardian. She reminded me of a beautifully crafted puppet, never moving or speaking unless commanded. Her expression was fixed, and her eyes were bright, but cold, as if made of glass. Moved to pity, I wanted at the very least to light a smile on her face. But I may as well have been talking to a doll. I couldn't find the part of her that was alive. It wasn't until many days had escaped us that I realized Lyria was a real girl with a feeling soul. She simply didn't know how to act like one. So, I taught her to laugh when she felt joy and cry when she felt sadness. Through books and reverie, I taught her to long for the outside world, and when colors on a page were no longer enough, I took her hand and led her to the roof of the military base. The illustrations Lyria had seen were lovely, but the sky now stretching above her was boundless and so luminous that it drew forth tears. And finally, her blue eyes shone, as if they were two patches of sky lit by a sun from within her. That sun melted my heart. There, with the open air as our witness, I made her a promise. Someday, we'll sail this endless world together. I swear it. As the bond between us grew, so did the cruelty of the experiments they performed on Lyria. Lyria doesn't belong here. No living creature does. The shining empire I served now became to me a place clouded by doubt. Day after day, a battle raged within me, between the knight loyal to her flag and the guardian who wanted to set a sad girl free. Then, one day, a memory of Lyria's response on the roof broke through like a clear ray of light.
Really? You'll show me this endless world?
I had made a vow. There was no more question where my allegiance lay. I took her hand once again, this time not to simply gaze at the sky, but to leap into it. And I did it for myself as much as I did it for her. Sometime after the commotion at Tempeel, life in Folca began to struggle towards normalcy. The breeze was soft and welcoming. I'd been blind to the city's charms before, focused as I was on rescuing Lyria from the Church of Avia. The sun watched over the victims of Furikin's rage as they raised new homes for themselves from the rubble. But once scars have set in, they are slow to fade. Here and there, the children of Tempeel labored with tools too large for their hands. I offered my aid, but the children said their work was their responsibility.
As long as you're sure you'll be okay.
Some distance away, a small boy burst into a red-faced fit. Lyria and I rushed over, hoping to be of help.
Don't try and stop me! I have to do this!
He hurled his words like stones as he whipped into a run. Concerned, I asked a nearby man about the boy. He explained that the boy's sister was ill, and the lad was after the remedy, an herb called windcrest. The sickness was assumed to have died out hundreds of years ago, but had now returned to torment the child.
And if that's not enough, I heard the woods where windcrest grows have turned into a monster den.
The boy had struck out alone. Folca had no soldiers to spare, for they were all dispatched to Tempeel for the reconstruction effort. No one was left to answer his pleas, but I would. In my heart, I vowed to bring back the child, and if possible, the herb too. I prayed only that I wasn't too late. I'll take point.
Well, according to that old villager, this is the place we want to be.
Perfect. Keep your eyes peeled for Windcrest. Earth spirits. Strange. We didn't see any the last time we were here.
Seems like you're attracted to the Windcrest. Maybe they can feel its power.
Hey! I think I spied some windcrest!
Granblue!
Pointy eye! Sucks to be you!
Do forgive me. What do you think?
Yeah! That's more than enough!
But we still haven't located the boy. What? Where is that coming from?
I don't know, but it can't be a good sign. We better hurry.
A golem. So that's what was behind the tremors.
Crap, it spotted us! Get ready for a fight!
Beautiful.
You are a blessing. I heard Furikin's voice just now. I think that when Furikin covered this archipelago in storm, some of its power fused with the land. And the monster.
No more.
Is it safe now?
I recognize that voice. With a final death knell, the golem stilled. The boy crawled out from the tall grass, and I pressed the Windcrest into his trembling hand.
Wow! Now I can save my sister! You're the best, lady!
He smiled at me, and with a great burden lifted from his shoulders, skipped the whole way back to Folka. As I watched his happy shuffle, I wished more joy and color into his life of toil, which had been covered by the dust of destruction.
We made medicine from the windcrest you picked. The doctor said Hazel looks better every day. This morning, she was able to get out of bed and do some drawing. She loves drawing pictures. Thanks again, Catalina. From Al.
And Hazel.
P.S. Please visit Folka when you have a chance.
Another letter from Al arrived. Hazel had fully recovered and was bouncing about with unbridled energy. Al had returned to work on the reconstruction site and was working twice as hard to make up for lost time.
Is it just me, or is his writing messier?
It wasn't just Vern. Not only were there more missing words and misspellings than usual, the lines of Al's letters were harsh and tangled. Evidently, he'd scrawled them in a great hurry between jobs.
I got a bad feeling that next up, it's gonna be Al himself stuck in bed.
I shared Vern's sentiment. This was a boy willing to pick herbs from death's very garden for his sister. There was not an ounce of self-restraint in his character. I could only hope that he would emerge from this trial unscathed. Reading Al's third letter made my head buzz and my hands go numb.
Help! Hazel got sick again. Doctor says you don't know what's happened. The medicine we made don't work no more. What do we do?
It struck me that I, a Skyfarer they had only met once, was all the help these children had left to turn to.
Catalina, I'm worried about Hazel.
Lyria, who had been reading over my shoulder, looked as pale as death, and I thought I heard the fierce thudding of her heart. Let's head back to Folka, quickly. We learned not long afterwards that the captain, who at times seemed to command a sixth sense, had already asked Rackham to set course for the city. Al, Hazel, don't lose hope. Help is on the way. When we arrived at Folka, Al came out to greet us. I noticed he wouldn't meet any of our eyes and ducked his head like he was hiding from the world. The doctor had examined Hazel from head to toe, but as far as his eyes could tell, there was nothing wrong with her.
Hazel says all she needs to get better is some Wraith Ring eggs, but I just don't know.
Al's voice was so small, I could hear the distance between us. Not physical, but emotional. He explained reluctantly that the Wraithwing was a bird which lives among the ancient ruins of Dolly Island.
Actually, forget it. We've made you guys do too much already. We'll figure something out.
His smile didn't quite reach his eyes, which were enclosed in dark circles. The reconstruction effort must have been hounding him, and he was apparently not its only victim. Hazel had fallen ill around when Al began overexerting himself. I think I see what's going on here. Gently pushing aside Al's objections, we left to search for a Wraithwing nest. The task ahead, though dangerous, was for brother as much as it was for sister. Leave the front line to me. This area seems promising. Be on the lookout for tracks. This is quite a rare find. We'd better add it to our provisions. It may come in useful later. What's this?
This cargo's sure been roughed up.
Large talon marks and scattered feathers. The culprit is probably a Wraithwing.
Let's see if it's left any other tracks. Look! More feathers! I think we're getting warmer!
Catalina! Catalina, over there!
That's it. It matches the description perfectly. That's our Wraithwing.
Ah! What's with all the party crashers?
Stay calm. I'll get us out of this.
Bring it!
Come on! They're weaker now!
Ready to face the music?
Nice!
This
Now
over
come
here.
on! We've got a bird to catch! These stupid monsters don't quit! You ready, Cat?
Always. I'll freeze them in their tracks.
This is gonna burn. Fire in the hole! Sucks to be you!
Look! The bird! It's watching us really closely.
Whoa! Looks like it's got giant talons and a nasty temper! Be careful, Catalina!
It's all right, Vern. I won't let that overgrown turkey hurt us. Let's go. So discretion's the name of the game, then.
I think it's protecting something.
Of course. It's trying to defend its nest. No wonder it's so desperate.
Well, we're desperate too! Hazel and Al are counting on us!
the nest and collect the eggs. I can't help feeling guilty, though.
We're so sorry, Miss Wraithwing. We promise we won't take more than we need.
Well done. Be proud of yourselves. I took our prize to the dining hall. But weighing on me was the thought that Hazel had likely told Al a white lie. It said that one bite of a Wraithwing egg sends waves of energy coursing through your body. I guess that she wanted the meal not for herself, but for her exhaust.
I'm so sorry.
My suspicions were confirmed when I returned from the canteen to find Hazel apologizing to the crew.
Catalina, we need to tell you something.
I cut Al off. I knew speaking the words would hurt him. It was better that he didn't give sound and substance to unnecessary guilt. I don't know what's troubling you, but you have to eat. It's the only way the two of you will get better. Food and comfort. That was all I could afford them. Back at the dining hall, plates of Wraithwing egg omelet were lined up on a table, wafting forth irresistible aroma.
Is that really for us?
At my nod, Al dug in.
Ow! Oh, burnt my tongue. But, so good.
I love it!
Muffled voices caught my attention, and I looked out the window to see a gathering crowd. Though I had only collected a basket of the famed eggs, it seemed that was enough to feed the whole city.
Hey, Al. Heard from your sister. Sorry, I should have noticed you were working yourself to the bone.
A man who seemed to be in charge of reconstruction efforts came to our table. Gently, he explained that he had only now been made aware of Al's failing health. He vowed to encourage the workers to rest, so no one would overexert themselves ever again.
Al, you okay, bud? You don't look so good.
Vern, who had been flitting carefree through the air, came to a sudden stop. I smiled at his concern, which was well-meaning but misplaced. Al was going to be fine now. It was time for a celebration, and I had the perfect surprise planned. Their reactions are going to be priceless. A light dessert is the perfect way to top off a hearty meal. Stealing my way into the kitchen, I cooked up an original dish using spare ingredients and imagination. When I unveiled my creation, the crew gulped in what I assume was anticipation. The people of Folka, however, were more vocal with their excitement.
You're saying that the very hand that defeated the Wraithwing made this dessert?
Is there anything she can't do? It was enough to make me blush. But, if I may be so bold, I don't think their praise was unearned. My dish was wholly unique in its shape, color, and smell.
Catalina, this is amazing! I've never tasted anything like it before.
Encouraged by Lyria, every last diner snatched up their spoons. Hungrily, they lifted a bite to their lips. And the moment right after, as if someone had captured the scene in a painting, they all froze. There are times when people are so filled to the brim with emotion, not even the smallest physical movement is possible. For the diners, this was apparently one of those times. It seems I'm not such a bad chef after all. Take that, naysayers.
Piloting an airship ain't easy work, but whether it's plotting a windward course or conducting some routine maintenance, you can always count on experience and intuition. Ha! Just a little further! Finally, the Grand Cipher broke through the nebulous shadows and turbulent winds of the Grim Basin, and to greet us on the other end was our reward, the brilliant clear blue. It was a panoramic azure, dappled by silver-white clouds and gleaming from the light of a new day. Always an exhilarating sight to behold. Judging by the cries of celebration starting to spread across the deck, I took it my crewmates would agree. Damn, who'd have ever thought a young dreamer from Port Breeze would make it all the way out to these skies? The Grand Cipher and I, we'd gone through thick and thin together. It's a long story, but it all started on that fateful day I met the captain. I haven't looked back since. Right then, landing maintenance. Fuel stores, full. Engine, all clear. We were ready to disembark into the unknown. What awaited us in the Zega Grande Skydom? As uneasy as I was, I couldn't help but feel a teensy bit giddy with excitement. Ah, the Grand Cipher. Ever since I found her abandoned behind a cliff, it was love at first sight. I was just a kid, but I had lofty dreams of repairing that ramshackle airship and taking her to the skies. Back then, I didn't know the difference between a porthole and port side, but I was determined. I dove into books bigger than my head, and I learned basic airship repair, helmsmanship, the whole kit and caboodle. After a ton of elbow grease, the day had come. The Grand Cipher was finally ready for a test flight. I still remember how my hands trembled as I grabbed the rudder. And wouldn't you know it, she actually lifted off the ground for me. Nothing quite like watching your first love take to the skies, is there? But before I could take it all in, my dreams came crashing down. I mean, literally, the Grand Cipher sunk like a damn meteor. 100 different things could have caused it, but that didn't matter. Years of work went kaput in the blink of an eye. Betrayed by the very skies I longed for, I was crushed. Looking back now, it sounds stupid, I know, but it really felt like I had nothing to live for. I put all my hopes into that hunk of scrap. Laugh if you want, but some pits are too deep to crawl out of, especially when you look up for freedom and all you see is the expansive crystal blue of your tormentor. Don't worry, my pity party wouldn't last for too much longer. You see, my dreams had crashed like a meteor.
But ironically enough, it was the meteoric rise of the Erste Empire that would bring the captain into my life. Salvation was on the horizon. Just as I'd given up on flying, the Erste Empire had arrived in Port Breeze, and they were hell-bent on exploiting our local protector, the primal beast of wind, Tiamat.
Their twisted machinations caused her to go on a rampage. Port Breeze was in peril. Fortunately, we had an ace up our sleeve, Lyria. Thing is, Lyria needed to get close to Tiamat, which meant we had to go up, and to go up, we needed to fly. Thought I'd already closed that chapter of my life when the skies betrayed me, but lives were on the line.
Quick, get on the Grand Cipher!
I don't know what got into me. She fell once before. Hell, I knew she might fall again. Nothing like a healthy fear of death to keep you grounded, eh? But the people of Port Breeze and my new crewmates had entrusted their fates to my piloting skills. My own fear was insignificant. All I needed to do was trust myself too. It's a damn shame it took me this long. But I'm back now, and ready to face the skies if you'll have me. As the Grand Cypher's engine purred to life, I knew I would no longer be encumbered by fear. I gripped the mast with pride as I set our course directly above, to the rampaging Tiamat. Lyria quelled the primal beast, and catastrophe had been averted. Not to mention, I could finally dream again. Ever since that day, I've been the helmsman for the Grand Cypher and its crew. And it's been one hell of a ride. I've since formed a pact with good old Tiamat and made amends with the shipwright Primal who built the Grand Cypher, Noah. So, Zeka Grande Skydom might be uncharted territory, but my role remains the same. See our crew arrive safely, no matter the destination. And that includes Estalucia. Some folks might call reaching the end of the skies an impossible dream, but I ain't too worried. With the Grand Cypher as our wings, anything's possible. Call it a side effect of being a helmsman, but my ears tend to laser in on any talk of airships. Then again, damn near anybody could have heard this guy shouting.
No! No! You can't do this! She's still skyworthy! She can still fly!
The distraught man was making a scene outside. 3 seemingly unfazed onlookers surrounded him. Between all the belly aching, I pieced together the man's story. He was an engineer, was upset that an airship called the Nautilus was set to be decommissioned. His 3 friends, meanwhile, were telling him to see reason that an old ship like that would be more useful as scrap. Reminded me of the Port Breeze days, back when my own dreams seemed like unscalable walls. The 3 onlookers were a young helmsman, a young mechanic, and an older merchant. They presented a unified front against the engineer, countering each of his arguments threefold whenever he opened his mouth to protest. As much as I wanted to help the guy, the trio were speaking the truth. Repairing the damn thing would cost buckets of rupees, and you can't fix an airship on gumption alone. Trust me, I've tried. Them's the breaks, kid.
I turned to leave. None of my business, right? But dumb old me, I had to pause as my ears caught what he said next.
We made a pact, didn't we? Don't you remember? The Nautilus. You promised that we would take her to the skies.
He could barely hold it together. You could hear it in his voice, the desperation as he clung to a quickly fading dream. It was a feeling all too familiar to me.
I mean, sure, the Nautilus may be old, but she's got plenty of potential. She could easily outpace any other cargo ship in the fleet, at least 3 times faster.
Found the poor bastard blathering his woes at a tavern in Folca. The seat next to his happened to be conveniently open, so I took it. Without so much as asking my name, he launched into story after story. It was clear he still needed to vent. Apparently, he just recently started his career as an engineer. Planned on restoring the Nautilus. It would revitalize the local economy, help Folca this, assist Timpil that. He went on and on. But I knew he wasn't going to feel better until he confronted the actual issue at hand. Don't get me wrong, I think it's great you want to help your home like this, but that's not the real reason you're upset, is it?
That obvious, huh? I made a promise to my friends. One day we'd fly our beloved Nautilus across the skies together.
But the ship in question was long past its heyday and had deteriorated beyond the point of conventional repair. Time is a cruel but patient mistress, and among the original Nautilites, only Kent had yet to accept reality. After he finished his explanation, silence fell between us. Well, until another man frantically stumbled into the tavern. I'd seen him somewhere before. Oh yeah, one of the naysayers from earlier, the merchant.
Somebody help! Anybody! Monsters are ransacking my precious cargo!
I was torn. Do my civil duty as a skyfarer and save the cargo, or help this ass determined to crush the dreams of my newfound friend? So, I asked Kent.
What? Of course you should help him!
Not a moment's hesitation from the kid. I liked that. This would have been the perfect moment to ensure the continued survival of the Nautilus, at least in the short term. But despite that, Kent didn't think twice about helping his fellow man. Hell yeah, Kent. I'll see what I can do.
Oh boy. Duty calls.
According to the merchant, our destination should be around here. I just hope there's anything left to save. Let's get moving. Goblins? What the hell are they doing here? Something we didn't warn you.
Come on! Get back! Hell yeah! You know!
Ever tasted lead?
Not bad, if I say so myself. Now then, we'll wait. That must be the cargo we're looking for. Cargo's safe and sound. Maybe. Looks like it's been rummaged through.
Watch out, Rackham! We've got goblins and wyverns on our trail!
It'll take more than that to dupe us.
Reagan way!
That all? Been saving this one.
Things are about to get dicey. Just don't let him get close to the cargo.
There's still more of them! Stay sharp, everybody!
Catch this!
Don't let up! Take that! Come! Come on!
So the big shot finally decided to show up, huh?
Well, you're going down like the rest.
You monsters screwed up big time today, because you chose to mess with the best crew to ever cross these skies.
Ha! Another one bites the dust.
Oh, you're a lifesaver. How could I ever thank you?
You want to thank someone? Thank him. I gestured toward Kent. The man's face filled with shame as the irony dawned on him.
So it was you, huh? Hey, listen. I'm sorry about earlier. I could have heard you out.
After the merchant left, I wanted to focus on the next goal at hand. Putting some wind back in the Nautilus's sails. So I proceeded to do some intelligent and, dare I say, brilliant thinking on the topic when Kent asked what I was talking about. Whoops, must have been thinking out loud again. You just wait and see.
How many times do I gotta say it? Getting parts to fix the Nautilus out here in the boonies is next to impossible.
I've never been good with women. My words never come out quite the way I mean for them to. I thought maybe Miss Mechanic would be on board, but... I probably shouldn't be doing this behind Kent's back anyway.
I'm telling you, I've tried everything. Sure, I'd love to see her fly again, but it's time to... get real. Right?
Hey, come on. That was against the rules. How was I supposed to keep a stern attitude against that blubbering mess? When I finally got a word in edgewise, I let her know I already had the parts she needed. Picked him up here and there, across Fanta Grande and Nala Grande. Here, this what you need? I'll cut you a deal.
Wait, how? Where in the skies did you find these?
Caught up in her excitement, she leapt at me. Whoa, not so close, Missy. Of course, she paid me no regard. It was the parts she had her eyes on.
Some modifications here and there, I could... Yeah. I can't believe it! The dream is alive!
Yep, the dream was alive. She didn't have to say it. The look on her face was enough. All that hubbub from earlier was nowhere to be found. After forking over the payment, she happily took the spare parts off my hands. She also made sure to plant a big fat kiss on my cheek before scurrying off. Sheesh, at least warn a guy beforehand, right? Women, I swear. In any case, the winds were starting to blow back in their favor.
Rackham, there you are. I've got huge news. Listen to this.
It was clear from Kent's smile that the repairs on the Nautilus were going smoothly, thanks to a mechanic friend of his. Well, ain't that something? I'd be lying if I said I wasn't impressed. Those parts weren't the easiest to work with. Not bad, Miss Mechanic.
Rackham, sir? My friend told me she got the parts from a traveling Skyfarer. Had 3-day-old scruff and a little swagger to him. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you?
Huh. Well, I keep my scruff in an elegant chin strap. Thank you very much. Not sure I sounded very convincing, trying to play off his answer, but I'm a helmsman, not an actor. Ha! But just another performance or two, and the Nautilus would be skybound once more.
The Nautilus is skyworthy?
I wasn't sure which was greater, the helmsman's confusion or Kent's enthusiasm.
Yep. We've got one last bit of patching up to do, but she'll be ready before you know it. Isn't that exciting?
Unexpectedly, the helmsman's confusion shifted into something darker. I decided to pry. Yeah, we'll have you back at the helm in no time. Unless you're getting cold feet or something. Yep, hit the nail on the head. The look in his eyes was unmistakable. He feared the skies. Despite his attempts to hide it, his fists were balled up and trembling. I knew the signs well enough. It wasn't my place to snoop further. From his perspective, I was just a busybody trying to dredge up a dream he'd long laid to rest. What could I do anyway? This was something he had to deal with himself. But hey, if I got through it, anyone could. So I did what I could. I put my hand on his shoulder and gave him a sympathetic nod.
I'm sorry, I don't think I can do this.
It was a bombshell no one wanted to hear, especially as the Nautilus's repairs were finally wrapping up.
What are you talking about? This was our dream, wasn't it? What did you...
I'm afraid, okay?
A heavy silence permeated the room. It was uncanny how much of my former self I saw in him. Actually, uncanny's not the word. It was downright painful. See, to pilot an airship, you gotta make peace with the fear of flying, a close cousin of the fear of death. You? Afraid? Aren't you a trained helmsman? I knew exactly how he felt, but decided to play dumb. His response was so faint, I wasn't sure if he'd said anything at all. Turns out, he made a bad call during a practice flight and crashed his vessel. Barely escaped with his life.
I don't want this dream to die, but my arms shake whenever I think of taking the wheel again.
Poor kid, he hadn't figured it out yet, but I knew how to teach him. Real shame the Nautilus won't have a helmsman. Maybe I should take over, till you're feeling up to it.
No. The Nautilus is our ship.
He took the bait. Fair enough. Then come with me for a ride on the Grand Cipher. If you've got the grit for it, I mean. It was a risky gamble, but I had a feeling Lady Luck was on my side that day.
Oh boy. Duty calls.
Incredible. It even has an autopilot mode?
She's got it all, kid.
Why did Rackham bring us aboard?
I'm not quite sure myself, actually, but it is kind of fun.
Rackham! We've got company!
No, I'm too young to die!
Everybody take cover. I'll handle this.
It's go time! Bring it!
There's more of them!
Just stay calm. I won't let you get in harm's way. I promise. Great. Now we gotta deal with these pests too? Always expect the unexpected, because in the sky, life and death fly cheek by jowl.
Expect the unexpected.
Rain hell on him! Between the eyes! Take that! Between the eyes! You know!
What do you think?
Take that!
Granblue! There! Looking good! Lovely!
I can't believe it took down those wyverns. Skyfarers are a whole different breed, huh?
Stay sharp! We've got more wyverns coming our way!
So the first horde was just recon, huh? Bring it! They'll go down all the same.
I think I'm starting to get it, Rackham. Why it is that you fought. I mean, you want to take the skies? You gotta be ready for the storms, right?
Yeah. When you truly believe in a dream, risk of danger, it's a small price to pay.
A dream, huh? I let fear get the best of me. I lost sight of what's important.
Hell yeah! Take this!
What do you think?
Bring it!
All right, that's the last of them. Now then, take a good look around you. Tell me that ain't a sky worth putting your life on the line for.
Yeah, it's really something, huh? I never knew it could be this beautiful.
Ha! How you guys feeling?
Incredible! The skies are so vast!
Wow.
So that's what the town looks like from up high.
What a relief. I was worried the monster attack had only made things worse for the would-be crew. But the gamble paid off. The helmsman's eyes lit up with newfound determination.
The Nautilus will fly, and you can bet I'll be at the helm.
The skies have a way of making us understand. I'm just glad this kid decided to listen. Clear blue skies, gentle breeze. It was perfect conditions for the Nautilus's maiden voyage. As the helmsman gripped the wheel, I knew he was no longer shackled by fear. Kent, the mechanic, the merchant, even Lyria, Vern, and some of our other crewmates. Actually, damn near the whole town showed up to witness the rebirth of an old friend. As the propellers began to churn, a metallic sputter sounded from somewhere below deck. It was a symphony of gears I'd heard time and time again. That mechanic, she'd done it. After a brief checkup, they started the countdown. Tension was palpable. Come on, Nautilus. All eyes were on the airship. No one dared to breathe. A wind whipped up around the Nautilus, and there it was. Liftoff. And once again, she sailed into those skies so blue. A few weeks had passed since the Nautilus took its maiden voyage. According to Kent, the Nautilus was now Folka's leading cargo ship. Makes sense, given that it was 3 times faster than any other ship on the island. And not only that, but it seemed Kent had found himself a new dream already.
Okay, picture this, Rackham. 3 ships conjoined into one massive cruise liner. See, all we need to do is reconstruct these columns here and...
I wonder if I sounded that crazy to the others whenever I got my big ideas. Anyway, such a massive ship would require at least 3 helmsmen. So in his effort to make the cruise liner a reality, Kent started studying how to be a helmsman himself. But if Kent were to be the second pilot, who would be the third?
About that, actually, we'd be honored to have you as the lead helmsman of our ship.
Of course. It was a kind offer, but I already had a family in my crew and a home in the Grand Cipher. But that didn't mean I couldn't let the kid down easy. Sorry, Kent. This Skyfarer's not old enough to set anchor just yet. Until that day comes, you can find me wherever the wind blows.
If I hadn't met Master Zaka on that fateful day, if he hadn't saved me, there's no way I'd be where I am now. I'm from the Vaults Duchy, where the weather's sweltering all year long, thanks to a river of lava that flows through the island. My hometown might not have been the most scenic place, but as long as I had Master Zaka with me, I was happy. After traveling for so long, I can finally say that with pride. Before I left on my journey, I was completely clueless. When my master went missing, I just ran around like a chicken with its head cut off. I was looking for something, anything that would help me find him, and that's when I met the crew. The reason behind his disappearance turned out to be even worse than I could have imagined. The Earthstate Empire had driven him out of his mind. They had manipulated him into awakening the primal beast that had lain dormant beneath the ground, Colossus. Fortunately, I was able to break through to him, thwarting the Empire's attempt to exploit Colossus's powers for conquest. I learned that they were doing all sorts of horrible things, even to their own people, in order to achieve their goals. My master was a kind person who never hesitated to help those in need. I resented the Empire for making him suffer. And I couldn't just sit around when there was work to be done. That's why I decided to join the crew. to stick it to those Empire jerks and give their victims something to smile about. A few years before I met the crew, I lost my parents to an epidemic. I mourned their deaths for who knows how long. I could barely even bring myself to face reality each morning. With no living relatives in vaults, I was like a ship adrift at sea. I had nowhere to go and nowhere to belong. Until one day, my master reached out his hand to me. I was so depressed I just kept staring at the ground. But that gentle smile never left his face as he asked me, "Why do you look so sad?" There was something in his voice that made me look up. When I did, a beautiful bouquet of flowers appeared in his hands, seemingly out of thin air. I had no idea how he'd done it, but I knew it must have been some kind of parlor trick. But he insisted it was magic. What a goofball, right? Saying that when he can use real magic. But it was just the magic I needed at that moment. Beautiful and kind. He went on to show me all kinds of incredible spells, the likes of which I'd never seen before. Watching him made me smile at a time when I thought I'd forgotten how. My master would always say that magic exists to make people happy. Something about that spoke to me. It made me want to become a mage just like him. So I signed myself up as his disciple, begging him to teach me magic. I'll never forget how happy I was when he told me I had talent. After all, if he was right, that meant I had the potential to make people smile too. One day, shortly after I joined the crew, I suddenly lost the ability to use magic. No matter how many times I tried casting a spell, nothing happened. I had no clue what to do. The rest of the crew thought Master Zaka might have the answers I needed, so we set sail for vaults. It'd been forever since I'd been back home. My master was thrilled to see how much I'd grown. I opened my mouth to ask him about my problem, but when I saw how happy he looked, I just couldn't bring myself to do it. I promised him that I'd come back as a great mage, but there I was, unable to cast even a single spell. The last thing I wanted was for him to be disappointed in me. Around that time, an epidemic returned to vaults, the same disease that had claimed the lives of my parents. Wanting to keep it from spreading any further, my master headed to the clinic to speak with the people who'd been infected. But he ended up getting sick too. The source of the epidemic turned out to be an evil spirit that revealed itself to us right there in the clinic. I immediately confronted it. That rotten creature had already taken my parents from me. I wasn't gonna let it take anyone else. Determined to make it pay, I raised my staff, but nothing happened. I'll never forget how it felt to watch, helplessly, as my parents' killer got away. The crew gave chase, but I continued to stand where I was. Without my magic, I didn't see the point. I'd just end up getting in the way. All I could do was watch as my master suffered, withering away. Nothing had changed since the last time. But you know, it wasn't all bad. In search of a solution to my magic loss at the local library, I happened to come across a beautiful golden staff, one left to me by my mother. That's when Master Zaka revealed that my mother had been a mage too. On the verge of tears, I clenched my staff tightly in frustration. My beloved home and master were being threatened by a disease-spreading spirit, and there was nothing I could do to stop it. Just as I began feeling completely hopeless, the staff began to glow. Somehow I could feel it encouraging me, empowering me. So what if I couldn't use magic? Surely there were other ways to help everyone. Unable to stand around doing nothing any longer, I ran off to find the crew. When I finally tracked them down, they'd already been rendered powerless by the disease. That left me as the only person who could fight. There wasn't a second to lose. It was that moment when I decided I was done running away. I'd promised myself a long time ago that I was going to use my magic to make people happy. Filled with newfound resolve, I heard a voice coming from the staff. Mom? Is that you? The voice told me to visualize the power flowing through me. As I did, I could feel magic welling up inside me, flooding out from deep within. With my mom's help, I was able to defeat the evil spirits. As soon as it was gone, light erupted from my staff. I turned to see the rest of the crew climbing to their feet, their symptoms gone. The power spread through the entire island of Waltz Duchy, eliminating the disease and bringing smiles back to the people. Things were a little touch and go there for a while, but in the end, everyone pulled through. And I've been able to use my magic without any issue ever since. I just know it's because my mom is watching over me through my staff. Thanks to her, I can keep traveling with the crew, using the staff she left me to bring out more smiles along the way. While out running errands in Folka one day, I came across a crowd of people in the town square. But from the sounds of things, it wasn't a friendly get-together.
I hate you all! Mom, Dad, everybody in this stupid town!
The boy shouted angrily at the adults and took off running, right into me. We both landed on our backsides. Sheesh, watch where you're going, kid. And that's when I noticed the tears streaming down his face. He was clearly upset about something. Hey, you okay? The boy hopped to his feet without a word, shooting me a glare before sprinting away. One of the adults started to follow after him, but...
Please, Doctor, there's not much time.
The crowd stopped him in his tracks.
But I can't just... No, you're right. My patients need me. Forgive me, Lev.
The man closed his eyes, muttered something to the townspeople, and ran off in the opposite direction. Wait, that kid was crying! You're not gonna go after him? I shouted after the man's back, but he either didn't hear me, or pretended not to. Then I felt a gentle hand on my shoulder.
I'm sure he wants to, sweetheart. You see, that boy is his son.
The boy's name was Lev. His father was a doctor, with many patients needing urgent care, so he had no choice but to ask the townspeople to find his son for him. I knew I should mind my own business, but I couldn't get the poor kid's face out of my head. He was probably hiding somewhere all by himself, crying his eyes out. I understood all too well how painful it felt to be alone. When Master Sokka reached out to me, it changed my life forever. Maybe it was my turn to do the same for someone else. I turned to ask the crew if we could join the search, but they were already gearing up to head after him. It seemed we'd all had the same idea. Just you wait, Lev, I thought to myself. I was gonna find him and put a smile back on his face, even if it meant sticking my nose where it didn't belong. The villagers didn't seem too worried about Lev. According to them, he'd have to venture much deeper into the forest before encountering any monsters. But that wasn't the issue. It seemed like nobody wanted to talk about why he'd run off in the first place. It was an obvious cry for help, and nobody was helping. I went through the same thing back in the day. Even after I met my master, there were times when the loss of my parents was just too much to bear. I didn't go so far as to run from home, but I'd sit alone in the corner of my room, hugging my knees to my chest and crying. Whenever Master Zaka found me like that, he'd always perform a silly magic trick to cheer me up. Just like me, all Lev wanted was for someone to find him, to take his hand, so he went off on his own in the hopes that someone would come for him. I'm sure he knew it was selfish, but it was the only card he felt he had left.
Do you think this means Lev doesn't want to live at home anymore?
I had a feeling that wasn't the case. He's probably just going through a rebellious phase.
Oh, that's when kids start arguing and acting out, right? Catalina told me it's pretty common. Did you have a phase like that?
Lyria's question was innocent enough, but I was too embarrassed to admit that I'd ever gone off alone because I wanted someone to pay attention to me. Heck no! That's not something befitting of a grown lady like myself. So what if I told a little lie? Our biggest concern right now was Lev, who was out there, probably crying with his back up against some rough, silent tree. He needed a friend, and I was more than determined to be one for him. This forest is as huge as ever. I sure hope Lev's okay.
Come on! We gotta find him, and fast! Wait, we're still on the edge of the forest, right? What are goblins doing here?
Leave it to me!
I won't let you down for the fire! We're gonna need that magic of yours, yo! Huh? Huh?
Catch this!
Don't.
That's a lot of monster! Guess we'll just have to take a long rest! I'm on it! Incoming!
Oh, come on! Just leave us alone already!
I'll show you!
Take him out!
Like that?
Let them alone out there! Come on!
Look! There he is! Over there!
I'm the one you want!
Great, Daddy!
Sucks to be you! It's
This power feels great! Check this out! What's in the ring?
Come, Crimson Force!
Don't worry, they're gone now. You okay?
Yeah, thanks.
We were lucky we found Lev when we did, or he would have been Monster Chow. But before we could talk to him, the town watch came hurrying over.
Lev, your parents are worried sick about you. Come on, let's go home.
Lev looked away, ignoring the old man's outstretched hand. I could imagine how he was feeling, being treated like he was selfish and immature, when all he wanted was someone to sit down and talk to. The man sighed and scratched his head in frustration.
Your mom and dad are fine people. Try being a little more considerate, okay?
Lev immediately bristled at those words, breaking his silence.
What do you know? This is all your fault!
Knocking the man's hand out of the way, he turned and ran deeper into the forest. It was like watching a scene from my own past, but I wished he'd get a grip already. The deeper he went into the forest, the more likely he was to get attacked. We had to hurry. We all split up to search for Lev so we could cover more ground. I didn't see any trace of him at first, so I thought I must have gone the wrong way. But then I noticed footprints that looked like someone had slipped over a nearby ledge. And sure enough, when I peeked down, I saw a familiar figure sitting hunched over, knees to his chest. He looked a little scraped up, but didn't seem to be hurt badly. I was just glad I'd managed to find him still in one piece. When I told him I was a Skyfarer, he immediately burst into tears of relief. I could tell he was upset with the villagers about something, and that's why he couldn't be honest with them. But as an outsider, I thought I might have a chance. Watch closely. I'm gonna cast some special magic just for you. It was time for one of my master's patented magic tricks. I showed Lev my empty palm before covering it with a handkerchief. I flung the cloth away, and voila! There was a piece of candy in my hand.
Wow, candy!
Here, you can have it. After devouring the candy, he finally calmed down.
Thanks.
Normally, that would have been enough to lift any kid's spirits, but his face fell again as quickly as it had lit up. I guess he really doesn't want to go home. I decided I wouldn't leave him until there was a smile back on his face. While we were still deep in the woods, I decided to ask Lev up front. Why did you run away? He hesitated at first, but after seeing that I was serious, he started to open up.
My mom and dad used to work as doctors in Tempeal.
Back then, all had been well with their family. But when Furikin went berserk, they lost their home and ended up moving to Folka. That was when things started to fall apart. His parents began to spend all of their time tending to patients who were affected by the disaster, with hardly a moment's rest. Lev watched as his mom got paler and the black circles under her eyes grew darker and darker. He begged her to take a break, but it was no use. Eventually, she collapsed from overwork.
I told her she wouldn't be able to help people anymore if she got sick. She just wouldn't listen to me.
And here I thought he was just a kid going through a rebellious phase. That wasn't the case at all. That's really grown up of you, Lev. You're just worried about your mom and dad, huh?
Yeah.
After hearing Lev's explanation, I finally understood how he felt. I knew how hard it was watching people you cared about pushing themselves too hard. I couldn't stand to see my master doing it either. And that's exactly what was going through Lev's mind. He wasn't being selfish. Everything he did, it was because he loved his parents. If it were me in his shoes, I'm sure I'd be worried sick about my parents too. There's nothing wrong with worrying about your parents. I'm sure they're proud to have a son who cares so much.
But
what? Something was still on his mind.
I always wanted to be a great doctor, just like my mom and dad. But after my mom collapsed, I started thinking maybe everybody else was just using them.
Along the way, he'd stopped being able to trust the people of Folka, and he thought feeling that way meant he could never follow in his parents' footsteps. Lev stared at the ground as he spoke, finally confiding his troubles to me. After hearing his story, I began to open up about my own parents. He listened to my words in silence. My parents had also strained themselves too hard after getting sick, and eventually passed away. So Lev's circumstances were all too familiar. Just like him, I felt nothing but bitterness and despair. There was one difference. I've got to admit, I envy you a little. After all, your mom and dad are still alive and well. While we were standing there talking, Lev's parents and the villagers were probably beside themselves with worry, braving the dangers of the forest to search for him. When I told him that, Lev finally seemed to grasp the situation.
I really messed up, didn't I? I'm sorry.
Are you sure I'm the person you should be saying that to? I stood up and smiled at Lev. He and his family all seemed like really good people. The only thing they needed to patch their home back together was a long heart-to-heart. As we made our way back to town, Lev still seemed anxious. Don't start freaking out yet. First you need to apologize to your parents. Then you can tell them everything you told me.
Well, how am I supposed to say it, though?
Talk about helpless. Lucky for him, he had a grown-up lady around to nudge him in the right direction. How about I teach you that special magic I showed you earlier?
But that wasn't real magic, right? It was just some cheap trick.
Rude. It was good enough to make you stop blubbering, wasn't it? Come on, let me see your hand. The trick I showed him could be used without any special training. It was the magic designed to bring smiles that my master had taught me. Lev watched me closely, then tried his best to copy what I did. He practiced over and over and over. After walking through the forest for a while, we heard the voices of Lev's parents and the other villagers.
Lev? Answer if you can hear me!
Where are you, Lev?
Mom! Dad!
As soon as Lev heard his parents' voices, he broke into a run. At that moment, the villagers' shouts echoed through the nearby woods.
Look out!
An enormous figure was approaching, knocking down trees as it lumbered toward us. It couldn't be a goblin.
Intruders, die!
It all happened so quickly. The goblin lunged to attack Lev's parents.
You're gonna have to go through us first.
Huh?
Lev was speechless. It seemed as if the entire town of Folka had stepped up to protect his parents from the monster.
Puny weaklings!
What I did next was purely out of instinct. Freeze! A block of ice appeared out of thin air, slamming into the goblin's head.
Tasty meat! You first!
The spell had done its job. I'd gotten the goblin's attention. I'd finally made a breakthrough with Lev. I wasn't gonna let monster breath over here ruin their happy reunion. Bring it on! I've got a spell with your name on it.
I wish there was something we could do to help her.
I'll try mixing up a potion. That should do the trick.
I can do this! Just how fast
If we're not careful, it could smash us to bits!
Here it goes!
There's more of them. What do we do now?
Stand back, everyone! I can handle this by myself!
Come on, you can do this!
This guy's nothing special. Just gotta keep it up.
Incredible. I think she might actually do this.
He's putting up one heck of a fight.
No. He needs medicine, quick!
I whipped up a potion for you! Thanks! You're a lifesaver!
in!
Now or never! Gotcha! My specialty!
I don't believe it. She took it down all by herself.
Oh yeah! We saved the day!
First you saved Tempeal, and now us. Thank you, Skyfarer.
The people of Folka were all safe, including Lev's parents. After thanking me, Lev turned to the villagers, shuffling his feet nervously.
I'm really sorry, everybody. Thanks for protecting my mom and dad.
Come now, there's no need for that. We're the ones who ought to be thanking your folks. They've done so much for us. Sorry for everything we've put your family through.
Lev and I shared a glance before he turned to his parents, finally telling them everything he'd been bottling up inside. His parents and the people of Folka listened intently, nodding every so often at his words.
You only ever had everyone's best intentions at heart, didn't you? We're so sorry for making you worry.
I chalked it all up to selfishness and immaturity, but I should have heard you out. I hope you can forgive your old man.
I was just glad everything had turned out all right in the end.
Ew! We're here to help!
Sorry, we were clear on the other side of the woods. What happened to that giant monster?
What the heck? You're the one who said heroes always arrive just in the nick of time. But what kind of hero arrives after the fight's already over?
What does that matter right now? Here, let me take a look at you. You're not hurt or anything, are you?
You have no idea how much I wanted to tease Rackham for losing his cool. But I held it in. It's really nice knowing you have people who care.
Yeah?
The day had arrived for Lev to show his parents the magic trick he learned from me. Was he going to be able to pull it off? I had to see for myself, so I followed them to a restaurant in town and sat at a nearby table. Somehow just watching was enough to make me nervous too.
I want to show you something.
Come on, you can do this! It's all about sleight of hand, remember? Lev showed his parents the palm of his empty hand and covered it with a handkerchief. Then he removed the cloth just like I taught him. But when he opened his hand, there was nothing there. I thought he must have made a mistake, but it turned out I was wrong.
I learned this trick so I could make others smile. You're actually supposed to have a present in your hand when you open it, but I couldn't think of what to give you.
Unable to hold in the tears any longer, Lev started to cry.
You both have done so much for me. I just couldn't find anything good enough.
He wiped away his tears with the back of his hand, his voice quavering slightly as he fought to get the words out.
I'm really sorry for running off and scaring you guys. But I was worried, because you're always so busy. It hurt when you wouldn't listen to me, and I've been so lonely. I tried not to let it get to me, but it just ended up being too much.
We're sorry too, Lev. But don't worry. Soon we won't be as swamped anymore. There's supposed to be a big group moving to Folka from Seed Hollow soon. I hear at least one of them's a doctor.
Once things have settled down, we'll all spend some quality time together. I'd love to go shopping in Seed Hollow as a family. That sort of thing. You'd like that too, right, dear?
Of course. As long as we decide on a budget beforehand.
Way to go, Lev! Seeing them all smiling together like that, reminded me of Master Sokka for some reason. Once we're back in Fanta Grande, I think I'll pay a visit to Vaults and tell him all about this little adventure. Sometime later, a brand new clinic was built in Folca. Apparently, the people of Tempule and Folca had chipped in to pay for it. A doctor really did move in from Seed Hollow, too, so Lev's parents were finally able to make more time for their son.
I'm gonna be a great doctor one day. I'll work super hard so I can give you a real present. Just you wait and see.
With an attitude like that, I have no doubt he'll make an amazing doctor. And besides, now he has my patented magic trick to put smiles on everyone's faces. When I peeked inside the clinic on one of our days off, I saw Lev chatting happily with the people of Folca. I'm sure this town will keep prospering even after we leave. The people here are tough. They'll overcome any hardship that comes their way. And that's what I believe anyway. After seeing the smile on Lev's face, how could I think otherwise?
I once gave up being a Skyfarer. Also, I could take up arms to protect my home island, Auguste. Man, she was special. You see, there aren't too many places in Fanta Grande with oceans, much less ones as gorgeous and pristine as Auguste's. And I'd be damned if I stood by as the Erste Empire sullied its waters with the byproducts of their weapons research. It goes without saying that I enlisted. Good thing, too, because it was in the midst of the ensuing war that I met the Grand Cipher crew. They helped us, the local mercenaries, I mean, take a stand against those Imperial punks. It wasn't a picnic, but we weren't gonna go down without a fight. In the end, the war wasn't decided by either side, but by the patron deity of the land, Leviathan, who damn near drowned Auguste in a fit of rage. Anybody's troubles would have seemed small compared to a battle like that, huh? Well, not long after, as if irony was waiting to bite me on the ass, my estranged daughter showed up out of the blue. I know what you're thinking. What kind of parent wouldn't rejoice at seeing their child again? But it's complicated, and it's all my fault. Man, the way Apollonia looked at me, like a wolf staring down her bunny-eared breakfast. I couldn't face her. But this crew, there was something about their vitality, you know? Here were these young'uns standing against impossible odds and coming out stronger for it. Maybe if this old man took good notes, he could eventually have an honest conversation with his own baby girl. So, I asked to join the crew and took up a life of skyfaring once again. The next time my daughter and I met, I wouldn't let fear and regret keep me from moving forward. How'd me and my daughter end up estranged? Well, the first thing you need to know is that my wife was stricken by a terminal illness. I refused to listen to the doctors. Terminal my foot. Even if there was no cure in Auguste, surely there ought to have been something in other lands. And so, I left my family at home, crisscrossing the skies looking for a cure. Got into a lot of adventures along the way, and somehow ended up making a name for myself. But no matter how far and wide I traveled, the cure eluded me. And while I was away, my wife, she breathed her last. I wasn't there for her when she needed me most. I never even got the chance to say goodbye. Regret and self-loathing crashed over me in never-ending waves. threatening to pull me under. You can't even begin to imagine the pain. And there was nothing I could do about it. It was all my fault. My daughter spent countless days looking after her sick mother, fighting off fear and dread. It's not hard to imagine why she hates me. She must have asked herself time and again, why was her father gallivanting across the skies while his family suffered? By the time I finally came home, she was long gone. There were no other relatives to turn to. The only family she'd known was no more. All I could do was stand dazed and helpless in the cold, empty shell of the home we'd made. After that, 15 years passed. I met the captain, and through my travels with the crew, reunited with my daughter. This might surprise you, but we didn't have a tearful, touching father-daughter reunion the second time around either. I spent so long telling myself that the next time we met, I'd face up to my past. But when the moment came, I froze. What could I possibly say or do for her as a father after all this time? Any courage I'd mustered withered in the face of her scorn, and I was left standing there, feeling like an old bastard. Sometime after this heartwarming reunion, I bonded with Leviathan, and through our link, saw glimpses of what lay in my daughter's heart. I thought I had escaped all those painful memories, but here they were. In that world created by the pact with Leviathan, my wife was still alive. I saw how things might have been if I had done things differently. Of course, I knew none of this was real, but I would rather stay in a world of memory than live in a cold, lonely reality without her. But she wasn't having any of that. She said I couldn't sacrifice my future to dwell in the past. She made me promise to fix things between myself and our daughter. Said she'd boot me out of the ocean if I came back without completing my task. Her words finally gave me the push I needed to face my past and start on the path to a brighter future. They gave me the strength to fight for my daughter in her hour of need. And I'd like to think that I finally did something fatherly, if only just the once. Of course, I don't expect our relationship to be mended with one conversation or act of bravery. But little by little, I think we're getting there. When Tempeal was hit by a devastating storm, refugees flocked to the safe haven of Folka. We heard the news and docked on the island, which was buzzing with activity. It was clear. All hands were needed on deck as reconstruction efforts got underway. So we walked through the city, looking out for opportunities to help. That's when we saw a distressed young draft. We didn't know the details, but it was plain as day that something wasn't right. He was stumbling around, eyes unfocused, and staring into space. I couldn't shake the feeling that we shouldn't leave him on his own, so we ended up trailing him. We came to the edge of a cliff. Though the morning sun shone on our faces, a frigid wind blew down our backs. The draft just stood at the edge, staring at something only he could see. "Hey, careful there! With the wind whipping around like this, you might lose your footing!" The draft whirled around, taken off guard. After a while, he looked away, shrugging.
Thanks for your concern.
You look like you've got something on your mind. If you want a friendly ear, you've got him here.
I guess I do.
He smiled, though the expression didn't reach his eyes. The draft introduced himself as Karzeda. Back in Tempeal, he was a jeweler's apprentice.
My childhood friend was caught up in that storm. I was in love with her. Could never get up the courage to tell her. And now it's too late.
Karzeda bit down on his lip, as if he was trying to hold back his despair. He went on, telling us that he'd hit a slump in his apprenticeship. Nothing he did could gain his master's approval. His frustration boiled over, and he got into a rip-roaring fight with his friend. Hurt, she fled from the workshop. He didn't go after her.
I wish I had, because that's the day the storm came.
Karzeda's face twisted in agony. He made a mistake, and it ended up costing him someone dear. I could understand all too well. Karzeda stared at the sunbeams as they illuminated the cliffside. His eyes were watering, and not just from the sun's rays.
When we were kids, we made a promise. Once I became a proper jeweler, I'd share my most treasured secret with her. Cowardly, yes, but that was the only way I could tell her how I felt.
It all made sense now. His deepest, darkest regret was putting off telling her what was in his heart for so long.
We made that promise ages ago. I wouldn't have been surprised if she forgot all about it.
Karzeda paused, as if remembering something. He lifted his gaze to the sky, then continued.
Oh, right. I have to go back to the mines in Tempeal. There are keepsakes of hers there. I don't think she can move on without them.
I could tell how important this was to him, but when the people fled Tempeal, a horde of monsters moved right on in. Actually, forget the fiends. Karzeda wasn't in shape to go anywhere right now. What do these keepsakes look like? I can head to the mines and track them down for you. Considering his condition, I wasn't about to give him room to argue. Besides, I know all about not being able to share the important stuff with a loved one while there's still time. There's so much I didn't get to tell my family. Even now, thinking of our old house makes my heart ache something fierce. That day, there was no one to greet me when I opened the door. Seeing the cold remains of my home tore open a void in my heart. But you know what? I managed to keep going because my friends were there for me. This time it was my turn to support someone who needed it. The keepsake should be somewhere around here. Might as well inspect the mine shafts as we go too.
Whoa! The place is crawling with goblins!
Can't just let them run amok. Time to get to work.
What do you think?
They act like they own the place.
Granblue!
Watch out! That one's got a bow!
This is gonna burn.
Late to run away,
Beautiful, aren't they?
You picked the wrong guy to have a shooting contest with. Karzeda's counting on us to find those keepsakes. A watering can, a shovel. These are the keepsakes.
Huh? Did you hear that? Whoa! More goblins! Look at the size of that one!
Goblins brought backup, huh? Fine.
Looking good.
We got the big one. I think we can rest easy.
Great! Let's head back to town.
Sheesh. The place was crawling with goblins. Good thing we came instead of Karzeda.
Huh? Where are you going? There's still goons to be.
Karzeda said his friend loved flowers. Tempeal's soil was harsh and didn't lend itself to flora, but her dream was to grow a variety of flowers and let them bloom all over the land. Knowing how much her dream meant to her, Karzeda wanted to bring her gardening tools back and place them in front of her grave. His hands were trembling when I passed them over.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
He was so choked with emotion that each word sounded pained, like thorns sticking in his throat. I kept my eyes on him. It felt like if I looked away for even a second, he'd fade into the great blue beyond. He was still grappling with his hurt. You wanted to say goodbye to her properly, right? Come on, I'll go with you. I slapped him on the shoulder, silently willing him to pull himself together.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Karzeda hugged the tools tightly against his chest, his teeth biting down hard on his lip. It broke my heart, seeing someone so young deal with such overwhelming tragedy. The least I could do was help him see this through. Just as we arrived at the cemetery, the clouds opened up, unleashing a torrent of rain. The blue sky was gone, painted over by a steely, unforgiving gray. Looking around, I saw that there were others paying their respects at different plots. Like Karzeda, they probably lost loved ones to the storm. As soon as he laid eyes on the mound of earth in front of him, the dam broke. Karzeda's shoulders heaved with his sobs.
Why did I say those awful things? There were so many more important things I wanted to tell you, but
He sank to his knees, crippled with grief. His fist beat at the earth, sending drops of muddy water splashing onto his face.
I didn't want that to be our last conversation. If I hadn't blown up, if we hadn't fought, I only wanted to see you smile, but I made you cry.
All I could do was watch over Karzeda as he poured out the feelings he'd held back for so long. Let it out, son. It's the only way to get through it. After the visit, we made our way to a tavern. We could hear the rain beating down on the establishment. It was still day, but the sky was dark as night. Karzeda ordered the stiffest drink they had and downed it in one gulp.
My friend once showed me a flower and said that each one symbolizes something. At the time, I didn't get it, and I had other things on my mind, so I never bothered looking it up.
He shook his head, saying that he'd wished he had treasured those small, everyday moments with her. Each word struck me like a blow, reminding me of my own failures.
How am I supposed to live with this regret? It's like the storm outside, pounding on me until I give in and let it sweep me away.
I mulled over his question for a while before opening my mouth. I'm not the right person to answer that. Only your friend knows.
But how? She's...
So I told Karzeda about my wife, and about the agony of losing her. All the things I'd hoped for, things we could do as a family, were no longer possible. The chasm of remorse threatened to swallow me whole. I couldn't imagine things getting better. Not then, not ever. But I was still alive. Unlike my wife, I still had a future. Didn't that obligate me to move forward, to find meaning in being left behind, and try to fulfill what she wanted for me? Didn't that apply to Karzeda? You want me to go with you? To find that flower, I mean? Maybe finding it would give him the answers he needed.
You think we can find the flower? That sounds like a good idea.
Karzeda spoke haltingly, as if remembering the times he shared with his beloved friend. She'd always loved flowers. Tempil was a land forged by its mines, and its climate wasn't suitable for flowers. But that wasn't going to stop her. As if that thread of memory had unspooled another, Karzeda said that his friend mentioned having a secret flower garden. But she hadn't told him the location, so he wasn't sure where to begin looking.
Sometimes she'd head out to a forest near Folka. If the garden's anywhere, it's probably somewhere in there.
It might be a long shot, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try. I drained the last of my glass. We stepped out of the tavern. The rain had stopped. The air was humid, but the sun was a welcome sight after the rain. I squinted up at the brilliant blue sky. There, arcing over the forest, was a large rainbow. We took our first steps into the forest. There's something about the woods after it rains. The air's so pure and refreshes the spirit. I had a good feeling we'd find that garden in no time. My optimism didn't last long. We spent hours searching every single likely spot, and a lot of unlikely ones too. Yet the garden eluded us. If it was here, it was tucked away somewhere really obscure. While we searched for those flowers, I made sure to keep tabs on Karzeda as well. The sun might have come out, but his expression was still clouded. He looked like he was on the verge of breaking down. I figured I should say something to try and shore up his spirits. I told him that no matter how harsh things are now, or how bad some days will be, there's always meaning in getting up each day, even if it takes some time to find it. Sometimes a search will take you back the way you came. Sometimes it's a detour. But even that has meaning, because the answer could lie off the beaten path. The important thing is to take things 1 minute, 1 hour, 1 day at a time. Even regret, though it seems as tall and foreboding as a mountain, might become a gentle hill you could walk over, given enough time. I know what it sounds like. But I wasn't just telling him this to make myself feel better. It's just... sometimes, you have to run when the going gets tough, and that's fine. Just as a ship needs a port in a storm, a soul needs a safe harbor. Turning your back on your problems isn't the solution. No one knows that better than me. But we're allowed to make mistakes. That's part of the journey, and what it means to be alive. At some point, we have to settle up with the demons inside of us and learn to live with them. I've been skyfaring long enough to trust my gut, and it says we'll find that garden.
Thank you. If only I knew what she was growing.
We'll know once we find it. Just stay close to us, okay?
Come join us. Let's look for that garden. Maybe we can find
This wood is aromatic.
Goodbye. I got your back.
Should ward off the beasts. Maybe it was put here to protect the flowers. There might be more near.
Another scented stick. And more over there.
Come, through there.
This is the place. I know it. But it's...
Damn it. The monsters are really going to town. First things first, we fight. Get back, Karzeda.
Take that!
Nothing me and my gun can't handle. Here comes trouble. Don't think you can trample someone's precious memories and get away with it. Do it! It's over!
You take the lead.
Nice, Rackham. Been working on that, eh?
As if. Easy going.
We handled the monsters, but the garden...
You all right, Karzeda? Come on, pull yourself together. People weren't the only ones who lost their homes to the storm. Monsters that were driven from their former territories flocked to the woods surrounding Folka. We finally found the garden, but the monsters had trampled a good chunk of the flowers, leaving behind only a few pathetically wilted survivors. Karzeda stared at the carnage, dumbstruck. I couldn't blame him. It's not like the monsters had done it on purpose, but they might as well have stampeded over his broken heart. I'm no gardening expert, but even in their sorry state, I could tell that the flowers had been well cared for. Fertilizer, spades, watering cans, and other tools were laid out. Inside one of the equipment boxes, we found a notebook with detailed records of all the flowers she had planted. The notebook had instructions on how much fertilizer was needed to help the flowers take root in the mineral-loaded soil, the best time for planting, the names of the flowers, and what they symbolize. I passed the notebook to Karzeda, who began reading it as if the secret to life was written in its pages. Maybe for him it was. The last page described another flower garden, separate from this one. With the notebook to guide us, we went in search of it. As we walked, I prayed for Karzeda's sake that the other garden was intact. We came to a quiet clearing in the forest, devoid of any beasts. The only other presence besides us was a crisp breeze. Shafts of sunlight peeked through the trees that shaded the garden. I felt my breath catch in my throat as I took in the sight. Purple anemones bloomed, filling the entire clearing. Just looking at them, I could feel the tension drain from my body.
That's it. These are the flowers she talked about.
Karzeda opened the notebook. Flipping through its pages, he came to the section on anemones. Tears spilled down his cheeks as he read her notes.
I see. So that's what she was trying to tell me.
After a while, he pulled himself together and turned to me.
Thank you for everything.
I saw it through his tears and heard it trembling on his voice, a fledgling seed of hope.
If you hadn't come when you did, well, I never would have known what she wanted to tell me.
He smiled, a pure expression devoid of the previous darkness.
She dreamed of a Tempule blooming with flowers, and I'll carry the torch. I'll make sure her dreams come true.
Glad to hear it. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other and you'll be fine. Karzeda placed a hand over his heart and closed his eyes, as though speaking to his beloved. Or maybe he was burning the sight of this garden in his mind's eye. Our time together came to an end, but I felt as if the storm clouds were truly gone, and in its place was a clear blue sky. Maybe part of the reason I was drawn to Karzeda is that I could sense that we shared something important. We both had regrets weighing us down, We made our share of mistakes. Still, there's no turning back time. All we can do is keep marching forward. Now that I think about it, just as I was there for Karzeda, there were a lot of people propping me up on my journey. I owe all those people my thanks. It's because of them that I stand here today.
Dear Eugen, I can't thank you enough for everything you've done. Every now and then I hear news about you and your crew. I'm glad to hear you're doing well. I was finally able to get licensed as a full-fledged jeweler in Folka. I started creating pieces based on those purple anemones we saw. People love them. I can't make them fast enough to keep up with the demand. The proceeds from the sales go to organizations working to restore Tempil to its former glory. Once we can go back home, I plan to create a large garden, just as she would have wanted. The promise we made as kids can't be fulfilled, but I plan to keep the promise I made to myself. I'll do it to bring her dream to life. P.S. I never did tell you what those purple anemones symbolize. According to her notebook, they mean, I believe in you. I'll wait for you. The next time you're in Folka, look me up. Until then, please take this pressed flower as a token of my gratitude.
Zega Grande, the Forgotten Skydom. As I gazed into its perennial blue, I reflected on my last time here, during my travels with him. My memories of this place were distant, yet unforgettable.
Have you been here before, Rosetta?
Hmm? Perhaps I have. Who can say? Eventually, I'll share my tales of the captain's father and our journey together. When the time is ripe, of course. But first, I would need to sort through my own emotions. It was here in these skies that we would eventually part. I know. In the eyes of eternity, our time together lasted no longer than a blink. Yet his impact on me felt nothing short of eternal. Indeed, it wasn't nostalgia that I felt upon revisiting these skies. Rather, it was the significance of this place and all that transpired here that weighed heavily upon my heart. During the war, primal beasts were exploited by the Astrals as instruments of battle. Withered and faded, one primal would eventually drift to Lumacier Archipelago, making a home for herself. Over time, she grew accustomed to the comforts of its forests and the serenity they offered. It was a far cry from the brutalities of war. Centuries would pass until a young man stumbled upon her domain, forever altering the course of her life. She engaged him in a vicious battle, but was ultimately humbled in defeat. Accepting her fate, she resigned herself to death. However, the man would sheath his blade and, to her surprise, asked if she would join him on a journey across the skies. A primal beast was supposedly no more than an astral weapon. Beings born to be controlled, manipulated, and ill-used since time immemorial. She had never entertained the idea of something more. In fact, she hardly had a name for herself. Well, she did have a moniker, but it was a meaningless one, whose sole purpose was to identify her as a weapon. Perhaps out of pity, perhaps out of kindness, the man bestowed upon her a new name. It was from that moment she would truly blossom. Rosetta. It was his gift to her, one she would treasure and love for eternity. With every union comes an inevitable separation. When his journey neared its final chapters, as he took up arms against the god of destruction, I returned to the forests of Lumacier. After my return to the archipelago, I briefly longed for his companionship, but the flora and fauna kept me company. Decades came and went, and one day I would encounter yet another young visitor to the island. There was no mistaking it. This was his offspring. I realized at that very moment the time had come. He'd entrusted this child to me from the ends of the skies. My heart swelled, but I concealed my excitement, flashing naught but a smile at the young captain. I would join the up-and-coming Skyfarer's crew on the Grand Cipher for another journey across the skies, this time as a bystander. During their travels, they would experience joys and triumphs, alongside loss and hardship. I continued to observe from afar, doing my best to obscure my true intentions. My roots were well planted in the past. Knowing what I knew, would I be able to act as a part of their crew in earnest? Before long, my ambivalence would come to a head. My convictions had begun to waver. Was this the right approach? Of course, I was conscious of reality. I knew their journey wouldn't be easy. They would have to face the harsh life the skies had in store for them. And with our foes only becoming more and more cumbersome even for myself, could I possibly protect them? My presence on the Grand Cipher was inconsequential, and at worst, a hindrance to the crew. I thought if I weren't here, the captain, EO, the entire crew would handle themselves just fine. Perhaps the time had come to retire to the forests once more. But as I was preparing to leave, EO grabbed my hand so sweetly, so innocently, and said she needed me to stay. I couldn't bring myself to abandon her. I would be the bystander no longer. Everyone in the crew had a role to play, and I would be the exception no more. Finally, I found my purpose. I was free to experience the skies once again, hand in hand with the captain. It wasn't duty or obligation that anchored me to this crew. It was love. And I promised to always protect them. I would leave no regrets in the skies. Thus, our journey continued. Only this time I felt that I was a true member of the Grand Cipher. During our stay in Seed Hollow, a certain request made its way into our hands. We were to inspect sightings of a mysterious young girl near the Seed Hollow castle.
You don't think she's a ghost, do you?
I put a hand on Lyria's shoulder to comfort her, and asked the client for more details. According to reports, the young girl appeared to be looking for something. Workers helping with the castle's restoration effort would attempt to approach her, but she would vanish before they could get close. Each sighting would spook another handful of builders, until there weren't enough hands to complete repairs. By all accounts, it seemed to be a ghost. Of course, I couldn't admit that to Lyria. It was not uncommon for spirits to take refuge in ancient ruins or castles, and play tricks on any unfortunate souls passing by. They were almost never malicious, even friendly sometimes. However, we couldn't take our chances. I just wished we had more information to work with. There was something familiar about this story. I just couldn't quite put my finger on it. The bustling streets and alleyways of Seed Hollow were steeped in an unusual silence. Rumors of the phantom sightings had spread, and the citizens became too fearful to leave their homes. We were still missing a part of the picture, but what was it?
I'm sure it was just someone's minds playing tricks on them.
Poor Lyria. I needed to wrap up this investigation as quickly as possible. However, despite our comprehensive search of the castle, nothing stood out as unordinary. We'll have to come back another day. Just then, I noticed a faint movement in the corner of my eye. Wait, it couldn't be.
Huh? What are these guys doing here? We already took care of Granblue.
Ominous forms. Foul creatures born from the primal beast Granblue. Surely they weren't the cause of the sightings, were they? I had my doubts, but this was no time for questions. The castle was in dire need of some pruning. Such hostility. It seems we've no choice but to fight.
You sure these are the ghosts we're looking for?
Okay, my turn. Been saving this one.
Something about this place gives me the willies.
This place will need more than a restoration if we don't do something about this. Welcome to my garden. I love this.
The road is sharp, guys.
Time for you to go. Come, Crimson Thorn! Looks like it's clear for now. Shall we?
Did you
What do you
see
think?
that?
Interesting. He supposedly disappears if we attempt to get close. But perhaps that wasn't the entire truth. Our job's not finished yet. Shall we? They've infested the entire courtyard. Who's ready for a pruning? Come! Fighting up close won't do us good here.
Sounds to me like it's time for
What
a
do you
ranged
think?
battle. That's right up your alley, isn't it?
Full scrunch! What do you think? Full bloom! What do you think?
They hunt from underground! You can't lose track of them!
Crimson Thorn! More? There's such a thing as being too popular, you know? Quite a tenacious bunch, aren't they? Question is, where are they coming from?
There's still more of them? Get a clue already!
Fall into the block! That should be the last of them.
Huh. And stay out!
Wait a second. What is that? What's this? A crystal fragment. I took a closer look. Within its faded luster was a familiar green aura. But where had I seen it before?
Hold up a second! Doesn't that remind you of those hallowed ground spots?
Vern was right. Its glow was nearly identical to the crystals found on hallowed grounds. Their unique aura kept monsters at bay, providing travelers with safe haven. Did this shard come from one?
It's faint, but Excavalian's aura. I can feel it coming from inside.
That couldn't be. I focused on the crystal splinter in hand, and indeed, there was the presence of a familiar primal. Excavalian was the primal beast of Dolly Island, much farther than a stone's throw from here. So why were we able to feel its presence all the way in Seed Hollow?
It's not the only one. I think I can feel another primal beast here too.
Another primal? How could that be possible? A phantom girl, Excavalion, ominous forms, and now another primal beast. None of it made any sense. As we unraveled more of the castle's secrets, it became clear that we had barely scratched the surface of its walls.
Yeah?
We were back at square one. In hopes of finding some new leads, we split up and interviewed every Seed Hollow local we could find. Despite our efforts, we found little new information. Zothba and his connections, on the other hand, proved invaluable once more as they unearthed a new clue. The girl wore a crown of flowers. I froze in place. I knew this primal. In fact, I learned of her on my first visit to Zega Grande. Konohana Sakuya, was it? Yes. An ethereal girl bearing a floral crown? It had to be her. Her presence would explain why Lyria sensed a primal beast in addition to Excavalion. She was pact-bound to Ulmarine Island, and she held domain over blossoming flowers. The unusually vibrant bouquets blooming across Seed Hollow just added more proof of her proximity. With the culprit identified, only one problem remained. Me. After what Sakuya and I went through, I doubt she would ever show herself around me again. Before I could share this revelation, there was something else I needed to discuss with the crew. Not about Konohana Sakuya, but my time spent with the captain's father. His crew was on a journey to collect Astrum fragments. These fragments were said to have fallen straight from the astral realm and contained the power of the primal beasts themselves. Using the fragments, the captain's father could separate astral power embedded within primal beasts and return them to their original forms. That was the purpose of his journey. His was a mission of liberation, to free so-called deities and legends who were tethered to the Sky Realm. Once free from the shackles of their corporeal forms, they could fade back into the nebulous ideas and faiths that had given them structure in the first place. Of course, it would be up to the primal beasts themselves to make this decision. Some had grown quite fond of living in the Sky Realm. However, there were countless others who were born into the skies, cursed to fight for eternity. These were the ones who longed for a return to the immaterial. At the lowest point in my existence, when I felt I had no purpose in these skies, I'm sure I felt the same. Regardless, some were quick to brand us a ruthless crew of primal hunters. And surely Konohana Sakuya had heard the rumors. But the question remained, why had she decided to reveal herself to me now? Unfortunately, simply knowing the identity of the girl would not solve the problem of her many phantom appearances.
So, is this, Kahuna Yakuza? You think she's the one causing the monsters to come out?
Unlikely. I've never met her in person, but I don't think she and the ominous forms are connected in the slightest.
Yo, got some new intel on the girl. You're still, working the case, right?
The family Zothba had been continuing to search for clues in the background, and thankfully, their search bore fruit. In one of the areas where the ghostly girl was sighted, a bystander had found an ancient book.
Broke my brain trying to read the dumb thing, but you're smart and pretty smart and
well, yeah.
Oh, poor boy couldn't even get his words straight. Thank you. You're quite the gentleman.
No, I'm not. I'm a badass. Anyway, I should get going.
He had barely placed the book in my hands before scurrying off. What had gotten into him, I wonder? I opened the book and peered through the rune-like characters inside. No normal person would be able to decipher this.
Oh, that looks really complicated.
Really? Let me see.
When Vern approached the book, Roland's transceiver began to glow. It illuminated the text, somehow morphing the illegible script into something readable. My breath caught in my chest. Had an astral authored this book? The text seemed to be a log from an experiment of sorts. Although it was barely legible, I tried to grasp its meaning. Originally, it was Excavalion, primal beast of fortification, who forged a pact with Almarine Island. Although it's unclear why, Excavalion would eventually migrate to Dali, leaving Konohana Sakuya to take its place on Almarine. That was all I could make out of the texts. With this new information, I needed to re-examine the facts. First, the stage. Almarine Island, home to Seed Hollow and its citizens, once protected by Excavalion. Next, a curious switch. Konohana Sakuya takes its place as the island's pact-bound primal. Now, our present mysteries. A crystal shard replete with Excavallion's aura. On Graminu's altar beneath the castle, the ominous forms. And finally, Konohana Sakuya's curious reappearance. Think, Rosetta. Was the shard left behind by Excavalion? Did it serve a purpose in protecting the island? It was possible that Avia's invasion of Seed Hollow destroyed this mechanism, causing the primal to reveal herself in defense.
Now that I think about it, the ghost rumors started to pop up only after that crystal beneath the castle was destroyed.
So, it was all connected. There's no time to explain, but more ominous forms will appear if we don't repair this island's defense system. Where could we find another fortifying crystal?
How about Dolly? That's where Excavalion lives now, right? Maybe it's got a spare lying around.
Indeed. If we were to find a solution to our problems, it would be buried beneath those churning sands. If I'm not mistaken, we should come across a guardian crystal not too far from here. Let's take a look around those hills. Do you remember where we fought that griffin? Oops. Didn't mean to wake you. Mind letting us pass through? What? Come, Crippen! Not quite the crystal we're looking for. A wild monster's den. I'd like to avoid needless bloodshed if possible.
This is gonna burn.
Fire! Get back! Duh. That ain't it.
Take this!
I don't think we're in the right place. Let's try to hit up that hilly area. Ouch. Nothing this way either, huh? Nothing this way either, huh?
Excavalion. It's faint, but I can feel it.
Did we find it?
Ah! A cobra! It must have been waiting to strike!
It seems words won't work here. Get ready, everyone. Careful. Don't let... Now then, where were we?
Wow, we did it! Let's take this crystal back to Seed Hollow.
Shortly after securing a crystal from Dolly, we returned to Seed Hollow Castle. We installed the new crystal beneath the castle, causing a pale green light to illuminate the area. It was the familiar aura of hallowed ground, sure to repel any lingering ominous forms.
It's too bad we couldn't meet her. Konohana Sakuya.
The mystery had been solved on nearly all fronts. I'd be lying if I said I was completely satisfied, however. After all was said and done, I still didn't get the opportunity to clear the air with her.
Yeah?
Peace returned to Seed Hollow, and it was soon back to the usual hustle and bustle. I informed the frightened repairman of the girl's true identity, the primeval god of Seed Hollow.
A primeval god? Holy macaroni! That's a spicy nugget of news. How do you manage to stay so charming and informed? Hmm?
A lady never reveals her secrets.
It's a little sad that you couldn't meet Konohana Sakuya. I know you wanted to apologize to her.
I knew, somewhere deep down, that talking with her wouldn't bring back all the journeys I had with the captain's father. However, seeing all the blooming flowers across the city, it almost felt as if she was acknowledging me anyway. I may well have imagined it, but call it something of a mutual understanding between distant sisters. After the vibrant patchwork of spring began to spread throughout Seed Hollow, I made a habit of taking a daily stroll around the city. On one of my walks, I had mindlessly put the crystal fragment in my dress. After arriving at a particularly sunny spot, I took it out to admire it. Something about it was different today. Instead of my usual reflection, if not only for a brief second, I saw a smile that wasn't my own. A girl in a flower crown. Our eyes met for a second before, pop! A single rose had materialized at my feet. When I looked back into the fragment, she was nowhere to be seen. Although I can't prove it, I know that she was here, listening to me. So I whispered, "Beautiful. This city has blossomed under your care, all while blooming in your own right. You deserve to be here."
Mother said she would bring us salvation. It was a glorious message, and for that she gained a devoted following. As for me, how could I doubt the woman who pulled me from the fiery wreck, who raised me as her own? I thought that together we would save the Sky Realm, even if it meant cutting down any who opposed us. But over time, the sacrifices began to mount. I struggled. My reason battled with my heart, which battled with my conscience. Mother was pure and righteous, but to sacrifice the entire Sky Realm? No. She just lost her way for a bit. She'd wake up one day and see she had strayed. As her child, as her defender, I wanted to believe that she'd change for me. Even at the very end, when I was forced to turn my sword on her, I was praying for an alternative. Any alternative. But she would not repent. And I was confronted with the full force of the atrocities I'd committed in Avia's name. But there was one light left to guide me.
Just follow your heart. It might lead you to scary places, but at least you'll know you're being true to yourself.
Thank you, Lyria. If you hadn't reminded me of my own strength, I'd still be in the dark following Lilith. I swear to you that I will fix even more than I destroyed. And one day, perhaps I will be worthy of your forgiveness. "15 years ago, Dali fell prey to a violent catastrophe. One that still lives etched in my mind. There was an explosion. Immense and sudden. My home went up in flames, and with it the only life I had ever known. People were fleeing and dying in all directions. The air was filled with screams and the smell of burning. Then I heard it. The soul-piercing roar of a dragon. My short life should have come to an end that day. Except...
Shh. It's okay. Let me be the one to save you.
Salvation came in the form of a kind woman. Her name was Lilith, prophet of the pilgrims of Avia. From that day forth, she was both my mother and mentor. I worshipped her. And the thing about devotion is, it makes you blind. Mother had followers in the hundreds, thousands, and my simple child's mind thought, well, if this many people have faith in her, she has to be good, right? I wanted desperately to be of use to her. So I trained to be the perfect guardian.
Young Id, one day you shall be as mighty as I!
General Galanza taught me how to fight.
You wouldn't want the other pilgrims saying you're riding your mother's coattails, would you? Then you must prove yourself.
General Magliel taught me why we fight. Her training was harsh, but that's how I acquired the makings of a general. All effort, no nepotism. Finally, I had some value to Mother. Her sharpest sword. I never felt happier or more accomplished. I thought we were going to save the Sky Realm. The naivete of it all. After we captured the Shaman of Salvation for Lilith's cause, I was assigned to be the girl's keeper. That made me enemy number 1 to the Grand Cypher's crew. Every time I took Lyria to a primal beast altar, they'd be there, and we'd fight. I mean, there was a time or two we had to cooperate to prevent widespread calamity. That's beside the point. They were standing in the way of Lilith's mission, opening a path to the Promised Land to Estalucia, and bringing salvation to all Sky Dwellers. Salvation. It's a powerful word in a messed up world like ours. No wonder everyone got roped in by her lies. Lilith was no more than an astral desperate to return to her home dimension, and she would have sacrificed the whole Sky Realm to do it. I tried to reason with her. Might as well have asked an avalanche to change course. So I turned to prayer. But what are hopes and belief without action? So left with no other choice, I joined the crew of the Grand Cypher to dispatch my own mother. But I never could have foreseen what would happen next. Lilith did something, and freed a monster from within me. The dragon I'd seen the day Dolly burned, with wings so vast they overshadowed all of Sega Grande. Bahamut Versa. But then I learned, Bahamut didn't cause the Dolly calamity. It had come to stop it. It was Lilith who killed my family and razed my home. She'd only let me live for one reason. She needed a vessel to seal the dragon in, and I was conveniently nearby. She'd raised me to win my loyalty and protect herself from the god of destruction now living inside me. But when I stopped being of use to her, she abandoned me and let me turn into Bahamut. I don't know how to describe the feeling of flesh melting into scales, of fire filling your stomach. All human warmth, human blood seemed to rush from my veins, and it was replaced by an overwhelming urge to destroy. It was like being swept away in a torrent. Any attempt to fight it only made the suffering worse. I was so tempted to give in. But the crew wouldn't let me. Apparently, the captain was sure I wouldn't lose my soul battle with Bahamut. So to help me along, they decided to beat on the dragon from the outside until he coughed me up. Yeah, not the most elaborate plan. But it worked. The whole time they were fighting, they called my name, and the sound of their voices brought me back. I split myself from Bahamut, then joined the crew to take it down. We had our losses, though. Bahamut hit me and the captain with a blow that sent us hurtling into another dimension. A man named Roland dove in to save us, sacrificing himself along the way. And that's how we came back to Folca without him. Roland used to be the local Mr. Fix-It, by the way. And I took up that mantle. I owed him that much, and I figured it'd be a first step in making amends.
Yes, can I help you?
And that's where this new chapter in my life begins. Me, as the new Mr. Fix-It. After clearing up some requests, I thought I'd earn some, respect, honor from the Crew Alliance Rafale. But it seems you can't buy forgiveness so easily.
Ahem. So I believe we're all aware of Avia's assault on Seed Hollow.
She looked straight at me as she spoke. The actions of the pilgrims, myself included, had left a number of locals without homes. There was a plan to resettle volunteers in Tempio. Give them a fresh start.
They're going to be out in the open, moving, building. This includes children and the elderly. Your job would be to protect the settlers until their homes are up. Trustworthy Skyfarers only.
Hey, don't push yourself. You can sit this one out, you know.
Rackham lay a hand on my shoulder, but I shook my head at him. We take it. This is right. I couldn't stay stuck in the past forever. I needed to move on. I needed to help those I hurt move on. It wasn't an easy choice, though. Our patron, the family who was bankrolling this mission, didn't know I'd worked for Avia. And I didn't know if I had the guts to tell them. Yeah, I know. How am I supposed to atone for crimes I'm too scared to admit? Still, one step at a time. Too much of a coward to take responsibility? Fine. I could at least start by repairing some of the damage I'd done. I'd make sure the settlers built in peace. And if one of them happened to find out about my past, then that would be that. I'd accept whatever punishment they saw fit to give me. It didn't matter where I hid or how far I ran. Retribution would find me eventually. The ride to Tempio was uneventful. The proposed relocation site was set near an old storehouse by the river. There was water here, and the building could be repurposed for homes. The migrants dragged their feet and often looked back towards Seed Hollow. Most had been born and raised there. We'd been hired as bodyguards, but for the time being at least, all was quiet. Just the sound of wind and running water. Patrols didn't take long, and only 1 or 2 people had to go at a time. The rest of us found other ways to keep busy. Carrying supplies, repairing the storehouse, prepping materials, cooking. Whatever needed doing, we did it. While the adults were building the new body of the village, the children, they were forming the new heart of it. It's amazing how kids can find happiness in just about anything. The world's fresh and new to them. Down by the river, they discovered unfamiliar plants and bugs with funny shapes. In the old storehouse, they looked for hidden treasure and lost stories. Sure, sometimes they got in the way of work and were scolded, but you could tell the adults appreciated having the kids around. It gave them hope. Io and Lyria were their self-appointed babysitters. They called it serious work, but it looked like fun and games to me. Those kids didn't have a care in the world. Well, all except one of them. There was a girl who would always glance my way, pretty much from day one of this job. I say girl, but she was a Harvan, so her age was hard to pinpoint. But she played with the kids more than she worked, so I assumed. Anyways, turned out she was a teenager. That would explain the looks she gave me. I don't think any kid could have been filled with such fear, such anger, such hate. Didn't take much to guess why she had a grudge against me. But she made sure I knew. It happened one day when I was on my way to the storehouse to stack some freight. She was in my path, and since I had a load of boxes in my arms, I almost bowled her over.
Don't come closer!
Her voice was loud and shrill. I won't hurt you. I promise.
Yeah, right. Everyone else might have forgotten you, but I haven't. We're here because of you.
Her name was Shiralu, 14 years old. Parents volunteered to come on this resettlement mission after they had lost their livelihoods back in Seed Hollow. She had reason to hate me. During this whole exchange, I felt strangely relieved. No more waiting in the shadows, trying to work up the courage to atone. Atonement had come for me.
Why are you here? To take our new homes?
Never. I only wished I were better with words. To convey even a fraction of the guilt I felt. To give her even the slightest comfort. Not a day goes by where I don't regret what I've done. I wanted to tell her I was ready to repent, but my voice came out flat, insincere.
I don't believe that for a second! You're a liar! A liar and...
But she was cut off by warning bells. I raced back to the settlement center, where I found Rackham.
Goblin sighting! Get everyone inside the gates, pronto!
His voice rose up over the cacophony.
An attack! But my father just left for the storehouse!
Remain here. I'll find him. I left without waiting for a response.
Come on! Just like we practiced! Into the gates!
We'll handle the goblins.
Everyone safe. Should be. Why we're here, isn't it? Now come on, we got goblin tail to kick.
Catch this!
Full bloom!
Stop, rock and roll!
What do you think?
There's more here!
They're trying the pincer maneuver. Vern, you watch over the settlers.
Got it! Leave it to me!
Even the sweetest... Beautiful, aren't they?
Ready to switch to the music?
I'll draw their attack!
Just what I needed.
Full bloom!
There's so many. Where'd they all come from?
Heard this place used to be Monster Central. Guess these are the stragglers.
Bad news, guys! Some girl named Shiralu has gone missing!
What if she...
Don't assume anything, Lyria. First, we secure the area, then we start a search.
It's over! Bring it!
Shiralu, bring it!
Isn't that the Harvey?
Id, do you know something?
Great, we'll get the search party started. Right after these messages.
Catch this!
Great, that never worked!
Stay down.
Hey! I heard Shiralu's near the windmill!
Yeah, that sounds about right. She was worried about her dad.
Then what are we waiting for? Let's go!
Heads up! There's another goblin band over here!
What? Shirolu, where did you go?
Focus on the fight at hand. Here they come!
Oh, Ed! You're not feeling right
Beautiful!
Yes!
Leave it to me!
Perfect.
Just try to hit me our way!
What do you think?
Full bloom!
Don't worry, we're here to help. Do you think you can stay hidden for a bit?
Yeah, I can do that. Thank you.
There's more? Out of my way!
Wait, I recognize that voice.
Sucks to be you! Looks like we're all clear. You can come out now, Shiralu.
It was a close call, but we managed to find Shiralu in time.
Everything's going to be okay now. Thank you.
Lyria ran over to the girl. I don't think Shiralu was injured, but her face was pale, and her lips were tight. It had to have been me. The reason she looked so pained. If I hadn't forced her from her home, she wouldn't have almost lost her life. I turned and walked a few steps. I'll secure the way back. Bring her when she feels better.
Wait, Id.
Shiralu needed good people around her. What did I ever bring but suffering? The day after the goblin attack, I had an unlikely visitor. Shiralu.
You didn't have to save me, but thank you.
That took me completely off guard. I searched wildly in my mind for a response, but all that came out was... I was just trying to do the right thing.
Look, Avia almost destroyed Seed Hollow, and I won't ever forgive you for that. Do you know how many people were hurt?
I'm sorry. Like I said, words, not my strong point. Is there any way I can make amends? I will do anything. She looked at me for a moment. Her lips working, searching for an answer. Her eyes slowly welled up with tears.
Can you bring back the dead? I didn't think so.
If I could trade my life for even one I'd taken, I'd have done it in a heartbeat. But she was right. Those people were gone, and never coming back.
I can't talk about this now. Maybe I shouldn't have come. Have a good... goodbye.
She turned and walked away. Her voice shook the entire time we were talking. With anger, I guessed. And grief. But she'd still forced herself to thank me. It hit me then how kind she was. If Avia had never existed, she might have never known the corrosive influence of hate. Our crimes went beyond the people we killed. Even those that survived, they now had to live with the trauma and sleepless nights. It was all so heavy. I was beginning to see that I'd never be able to atone. Not if I had 100,000 years and all the power in the skies. We now knew the settlement was a prime target for goblins. We'd cleared out a band of them, but there would always be more. We decided to tighten our defenses. More frequent patrols with bigger teams. I was quick to volunteer for the first shift. Lyria, Vern, and the captain came along.
Hey, we noticed things are kind of tense between you and Shiralu. Do you want to talk about it?
Lyria kept pace beside me, peering up into my face. What's there to say? My past was for me to solve. I didn't need to make the crew part of my guilt.
She knew, didn't she, that you were once part of Avia?
All right, fine. Who was I kidding? No one kept secrets with these three around. Someone was going to find out eventually. Just don't worry about it. But Vern and Lyria pushed back.
We're buds now, right? Your problems are my problems.
Exactly. We can talk to Shiralu together. This is your chance to make things right.
You know, sometimes when you feel lost in a hostile world, that's all it takes to put things into perspective. A few kind words. Okay. But there's no half-assing it. Whatever Shiralu asks, we give it to her. Do you understand? I was offered no answer, but their eyes told me enough. Sins are only burned away through atonement. This was the way things had to be. We walked for a while in silence, until finally the captain nodded. And I was told the crew would do what was right. Days passed, and the demeanor of the settlers when they were around me began to change. Bright eyes turned into cold stares. Open hands clenched into fists, smiles morphed into sneers. They had begun avoiding me, too. It was easy enough to guess why. On an afternoon, buried under gray clouds, the rest of the crew gathered around me in a show of solidarity. I'd recommend keeping your distance. I'm a known criminal now. I stared ahead of me into empty space. Maybe Shiralu had told the others about me. Maybe she hadn't. What did it matter? The truth was bound to come out eventually. This was justice.
But Id, you didn't hurt anyone because you wanted to. You were being controlled.
The captain knelt beside me and pointed out excuses I'd rehearsed in my mind 1,000,000 times before. That as a child, I couldn't have known the difference between right and wrong. That as an adult, I was blinded by my love for Lilith. That in choosing to turn against my family for the sake of the skies, I had sacrificed the most. Yeah, I had misguided intentions. So what? If that were a real defense, we wouldn't have any villains, would we? I deserve to be judged for my actions, and my actions alone. They all fell silent after that. Shiralu found me during one of my patrols. She stood in front of me, fidgeting with the cloth of her skirt.
I'm sorry. I only told one person and then somehow everyone found out.
With all due respect, save your apologies. Looking back, I realize I should have chosen my words more carefully. Something like, you don't have to apologize. All you told them was the truth. You know, something a person with a heart would have said.
No, you don't get it!
Yeah, She had a right to be upset. Only I could have sounded so accusing when what I really meant to say was, it wasn't your fault.
Just tell me one thing. Did the church really brainwash you? And did you really have to fight your own mother?
What? Where'd you hear about that?
Your friend told me. The captain.
Of course. The captain promised me the crew would do what was right. Guess that meant giving my whole backstory to Shiralu.
Anyways, it doesn't matter where I heard it. What matters is whether it's true or not. So...
Why did she need to know? Would my good intentions bring back the dead? Shiralu knew the answer to that as well as I did. My past is no excuse.
So it is true. You're a victim. Just like us.
No. I was the perpetrator. I had to be the perpetrator. How else could I explain the guilt that sat on my chest? It made it hard to breathe. But before I could say any of this, I was interrupted by the shrill ringing of warning bells. What's going on? Just as before, Rackham was making rounds to explain the situation.
It looks bad. Our supply runners are under goblin attack.
Supply routes were the lifeline of any settlement. They needed to be cleared immediately. I'll head out now. Shiralu, find your family and get to safety.
Okay, I won't leave the village this time.
Good. I met up with the others, and we left for battle.
Oh, thank goodness you're here! If we lose these supplies, we lose the village! We'll have to help!
No problemo. Goblin Hunter's my middle name.
Less talking, more fighting! Wow!
Huh? Reinforcements. I think they still had hordes in reserve.
This looks bad! More goblins are headed for the village!
What? Now? We can't abandon the supplies.
I'll go back. Can you handle things here?
Sure can. You just worry about getting to the village in time, hero boy.
All right, Ed, let's roll!
What do you think?
Come on, bud. We're almost there.
Okay.
What the? They've overrun the place!
There's less than I thought. Perfect.
Where are those Skyfarers? I'm so scared.
Someone's here! It's Id!
Stay inside. Don't come out until I say so.
You're planning to fight them alone? But you can't win!
You've never seen Id when he's serious. He'll be fine.
What's going to happen to us?
All I wanted was to protect people. I know I've made mistakes in the past, but I have changed. And I'll prove it.
He's facing all those monsters. For us.
But if it weren't for him, we wouldn't be in this situation.
I know that Avia robbed us of our old homes. But right now, it's fighting to protect our new ones.
Still more of them?
Oh, crap! Now I'm getting worried!
Over! I can do this!
No! More goblins are coming! Don't give in, Ed!
Why are you cheering them on?
Listen to me. It might have done some terrible things in the past, but look at the person who's out there right now! He's risking everything to save us. Is that what a villain does? You're right. I'll never forgive the Church of Avio, but Ed's no longer one of them.
He helped build this village, and now he's protecting it. That means he's become one of us.
I believe in Ed. He's our last hope. Please, Ed, pull through! We're counting on you!
To protect them, I have to!
Whoa, that's insane! He powered up!
I've seen too many homes burned in my life.
I won't let it happen here!
You can do it, Ed!
We're all cheering for you, Ed! Show those monsters who's boss!
Eat this!
That thing is huge! Please win this!
Right. All I need is 90 seconds! Eat this! Got it. Careful.
I still can't believe he's out there. All alone.
Come on, Ed! You got this!
Thank you, Ed.
Well done. My sword cut clean through the last goblin. It's over. As I pulled my blade clear of its flesh, it trailed an arc of blood through the air. I felt the settlers behind me, watching, judging. You see, I thought, this is the kind of monster I am.
I can't believe it! You did it, Ed! You really did it!
Shirley broke the silence with a cheer. For me, I had to say something. The goblins are gone. All at once, the migrants rushed me. Hands took hold of me and lifted me into the air.
Those were fearsome odds, but you pulled through!
You saved us. Thank you, Ed.
These people knew I had destroyed their homes. So why were they rallying to me?
Sorry I'm late. What'd I miss?
The crew was now filing back into the village. They gazed up at me open-mouthed. I'm sure I looked back at them with pretty much the same expression.
Oh, nothing. Just Ed single-handedly annihilating a goblin army.
The settlers finally put me down and began telling exaggerated accounts of the battle. I tried to take the opportunity to slink off and find conversation with something more my level. Maybe a tree or something.
Hey, just where do you think you're sneaking? Is our resident bad boy feeling shy?
I shot Rackham my nastiest look, but only because he had guessed the truth.
You should be proud, Ed. You saved everyone here.
Come on, Lyria. It had to be obvious that I wanted to be left to myself. The truth was, I didn't think I deserved all this praise. So I saved a small settlement. Great. Guess we'd forgotten I've also raised entire cities. The captain strolled up to me and, after elbowing me in the ribs, asked, how was it to fight for the good guys? That, I had an easy answer to. Not bad, I said. Not bad at all.
Yeah?
The morning after the second goblin strike, the sun rose on a quiet scene. The river glinted gold. The grass stirred in the breeze. The migrants came with our breakfast and a peace offering.
Avia attacked our homeland. We'll never forget that pain. But you proved yourself a true ally yesterday.
Everyone saw you risk your life for us. You've earned our trust.
They seemed to be leading up to something, so I asked with my usual eloquence. And...
Well, if it's all right with you, we'd like you to stay and protect our fledgling village.
I could not believe my ears. No. I'm not the person for the job. I've committed atrocities.
Ed.
Lyria's voice sounded from behind me. I turned to see her smiling. You're right. She hadn't said anything, but I got the message. I had spent these past few weeks looking for punishment, hoping it would somehow numb my guilt. But how was my pain supposed to help anyone? I had become the new Mr. Fix-It. I was going to dedicate my life to helping more people than I hurt. That was the best. The only way to atone.
What's wrong, Ed? You look like you've gone into brooding overdrive.
What? No, I'm happy.
Buddy, you ever heard of a smile?
At this, the crowd laughed. I raised the corner of my lips, as if testing them. This made the crowd laugh harder.
Sorry to interrupt, but could I have a word?
It was one of the soldiers from the supply force.
As some of you may already know, we weren't only responsible for transporting supplies, we were also tasked with assessing the resettlement effort. And I think it's no stretch to say the local monster presence is deadly. I'll have to ask the higher-ups to consider relocating.
Shiralu answered before I could.
Not a problem. We've got a beast-slaying Mr. Fix-It on our side.
As the local Mr. Fix-It, I've had a finger in every pie. From furniture repair to monster extermination to marriage counseling, I've seen it all. Though I admit the counseling did not come naturally to me. Still, I wanted to help in any way I could. I owed the skies that much. A new request came in today. From an old friend.
Ed, was it my imagination or did I see you crack a smile?
Lyria materialized at my shoulder and tried to read the forms in my hand. Yeah, work's been... I handed her the papers. And there, written in plain view, was the name of our latest patron. Shiralu.